A little bit.
We'd like one of you to join us every other week.
Okay, we're on. Good evening and welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, May 22nd, 2014. If you could all rise and please say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, before we start the meeting and the reorganization of the school committee, we do have guests here tonight that we're very happy to have. We have Jenya Pankova and her parents, Victor and Antonina. Mm-hmm. Thank you for coming.
And so
And
come
Mr.
on.
Goldberg.
So why don't, can you come up and sit around the table for a minute? And Frank, could you come up too? Just because maybe the committee want to ask you a couple of questions, or so just make yourself comfortable right around the table. And then what we're going to do, I think, is show what was on Channel 5, because I think there may be people in the audience who, here, come right here, Jenna, sit right down here. There probably are people in the audience who maybe might not have seen this. There you go. You all set? Yep. Perfect. Okay, so make yourself comfortable right there at that table. Frank, you want to stand by Jenna? That's fine.
Mr. Pankova, do you
Come
want to
on
come on
up.
up?
He likes to sit in the audience. He wants to fade in. Your father's bashful, Jenna. Okay, so who's going to push the little button, Laura?
Bus takes us to Georgetown High School.
News Center 5's Jim Loke introduces us to a senior whose physical disability has not kept her from achieving her goals.
Maybe you don't want to write about the elevator. Maybe you want to write about a senior prank or a prank you pulled.
In this creative writing class at Georgetown High, the new kid in class is sleeping through the whole lecture. That's okay with Jenya Pankova. Her seeing eye dog Tigger deserves the rest.
The dog, he allows just the feeling of, freedom and kind of a sense of security more than I had before.
Jenya came from Russia to the Boston area as a second grader, born blind but with the hopes of getting her vision back. Unfortunately, surgery after surgery didn't help. But with her spirit and drive, she's living a normal life here.
I wouldn't say it's a challenge. I look at it as everyone has challenges, so I don't look at it as anything different.
Whenever you think that Jenya can't do something, put it out of your head, because she'll do it.
Now, no doubt, she is a star student, but also a star athlete. This is goalball. It is a popular sport among the visually impaired, and when she wanted to start a team here, she did just that.
A lot of people kind of helped me through that to make it happen, so we are the first goalball team in Massachusetts.
And now Jenya's moving on. She was accepted to Rhode Island College, where Tigger will help her as she prepares to perhaps major in special ed.
I want to give back, and I know how it feels to have all the accommodations you need, and it just feels great. So I want everybody else to, I want to play a part in their lives to help them get there.
I feel that I can retire as a teacher knowing that I had Jenya for 2 years. It's been the best experience of the 35 years. And everybody in the building loves her.
Jenya Pankova, this week's A+. I'm Jim Loke, WCVB News Center 5.
So when Barbie and I talked about this, we thought, what a great opportunity if the family would be willing and Frank would be willing to come to the school committee, because it's obviously a televised public meeting. And, there may be people in the public who didn't have a chance to see it, but deserve to be proud and celebrate with us, Jenna's accomplishments. So, Frank, I thought if you could just say a couple of words, because I know you worked really hard to make this happen.
This really was in the works for about a year. I inquired of Channel 5 when I had Jenya last year. I wanted her to receive this award, but they only give it to seniors. So I knew somewhere down the line I would be in touch with them. And it was a labor of love. Applications, letters, phone calls. Channel 5 canceled 3 times.
Oh.
And one was for a snowstorm, one was because they had to cover the Boston Marathon, and another was for when the 2 firemen were killed in Boston. And I got an email, very nervous, because I knew we were running out of time. And I got an email, Frank, we're all set. We're coming in on Wednesday while we were on vacation. So we're gonna come in the Wednesday, we were on vacation, so I got in touch with them. And the one thing that will always stick in my mind, besides having Genya for 2 years, the reporter, Jim Loke, as he was leaving the school, he said, you know, this was the last one we did this year, and we saved the best for last.
How nice, that's great.
And last week, Genya and I both got notification from Channel 5 that Genya received a $3,000
Oh,
scholarship
my goodness.
from Channel
That's
5.
great. That
It's been great. You know, there are a lot of students that I have, that all of us in the
Yep.
school have, that would be worthy of this award, but I don't think anybody would argue with the selection of Genya. And for students in the years ahead, now they have something to look up to, and if they can achieve as much as Genya, then they'll be up there with A+ students. But
Absolutely.
it was the most fun I had. It was a great experience. The only thing better than it was having Genya for 2 years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the dog.
And the
Although the dog, the only class in the building that the dog does not go into is my class, because I have the one student in the high school
that's got
who's
allergic.
allergic to the dog.
Mine
Oh, my.
too. And math.
Oh, yeah, mine. I'm in
Yeah.
her math class.
Miss-
Poor,
Mrs.
poor
Utter's
Genya
class.
has to bring the dog to its room, in its bed, to take a nap, and she has to work her way all the way back up to my class. I have one student. I was tempted to get rid of the student. She's been great. And
Yeah.
I want to
Television.
thank you all for acknowledging this.
Oh,
This is a
no.
fantastic young lady who is really reflective of the work that all of us at the high school do.
And inspiring to people, because she's never given up, you know, no matter
Never.
what the challenges, we all have them, and you're absolutely right, I love that.
Yeah,
But some people have more than others, and I think it's quite amazing what you've accomplished, and I'm sure your family has a big part of that, and I'm sure are very proud, you know, of everything, you know, starts at the top. So, thank you for coming tonight. Does anybody have any questions for Genya? Do you want to talk a little bit about, you know, your experiences in Georgetown, and maybe the things you're gonna take away and what you're looking forward to in college?
Just like I said, I'm planning on majoring in special education, and really what made that happen was just the fact that like everyone in Georgetown, all the teachers, all the special ed teachers have been so accommodating, and it's been so amazing to see how accommodating everybody is, and I just know how many like amazing opportunities I had over like school years and like over the summer and different internships and stuff that I did because of those people, and that I want to give back to everyone else, and I want to, like, you know, other students to feel as independent as they can, and I want them to know that they can be as independent as they can.
Genya, can I ask, what grade were you in when you started school in Georgetown?
I started in 2nd grade.
In 2nd grade, wow.
Yeah.
Did you come directly from Russia? So could you speak? No, so
I was born in Russia, but I came here when I was 3, and then I went to school in Manchester, Massachusetts for a little while, and then I moved here in 2nd grade.
Okay. And so why did you pick Rhode Island College?
It's actually a mistake. It's
Oh.
not Rhode Island
What
College
is it?
anymore.
What is it? Rhode Island University?
No, no, it's Bridgewater State
Oh,
University.
Bridgewater State.
Oh, okay.
University.
That's a-
Okay, that's a name we recognize a little bit more. Yeah. Oh, very good.
So
And why-
how do you feel about her going off to college? Like, what is the feeling in the household? It's hard.
You're proud of her, right?
It's very nice to hear very good words from the teacher, and now we got a big experience from the school. We didn't know also how be with this school, you know.
Yeah.
We was very worried about. Now we know she's a very good student now. We hope in the Bridgewater State University, she will be good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much for teachers in Georgetown.
Everybody, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
You're so welcome. You're so
So
welcome.
glad.
It's been such a privilege to have her, you know,
Yeah.
as part of our
Thank you
student
very
body.
much.
And, you know, I loved, I think you said it, Frank, and everybody loves her, you know, because I think that's also important when you're in a small school. It can be good and bad in that way if you have some differences, you know, but Georgetown and just the way Jenny is, you know, obviously she's just been a great contributor and great member of the community, so we've all been enriched, so thank you for all you did on that. Any other questions from the committee, comments?
You're an amazing girl.
Congratulations
I know,
on just the
wonderful.
goals that you set for yourself and never giving up, and what a wonderful example and how inspiring for everyone. How could they not love her?
And Frank, thank you for your tenacity, because I do know that there are all kinds of people that want to see students recognized, but you didn't let it go, and that's why, we're here celebrating tonight. And that's, to me, that what you've brought to this as a teacher, and you're retiring this year. I wrote to you, I don't know how we do without you. I'm gonna get teary. But thank you for being the kind of teacher you are, and all that you do for kids, because this is above and beyond. And this young girl, will never forget this experience as a result of what you've done.
Neither will I.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Now we have to. Thank you for coming, Jenny. I appreciate that short notice. You guys, thank you for coming on such short notice. Just came out, why don't we have her come? And the meeting's next week, by the way.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of the
We wish
year,
you the
and
best
I'll
of
see you at the senior activities and all of that.
Everyone's coming now.
I know, God, I didn't, sorry about that. Wanted it to be a happy occasion, not a teary occasion. So, Jenny, do you want us, you can welcome to sit here, or you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, I guarantee. But, you can go back to sit with Mr. Goldberg and your mom if you want, or you can sit right here. It's really up to you, either way you want to do it.
Jenny has homework.
I know, probably from her English teacher. Yeah. Thank you again. And thank you,
so much
Tigger
for
is the
coming
dog's
and
name,
sharing.
right?
Yeah.
It was very good. Thanks again. Okay, let's do something fun.
Like the
Like reorganization. That ought to be really fun.
This is fun.
Well, I just, you don't get to do this enough,
Yeah. It was very nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
pleasure. Okay.
Okay, we are going to, well, let's talk to Mary Beth first, before we do the.
Because she's got to go
reorganization.
she's got to go.
So can you just tell us what's been going on the last couple of weeks in school?
Yep, so today was the very last AP test for a couple students who are at DECA. They made up their makeup exam today, so we're all done with AP, so that's good. Park testing is going on right now for freshmen and sophomores. That's the only 2 grades, right? Pretty sure. We had a chorus and chorale concert last night, an a cappella. That was really fun. It was honoring all of the seniors because it was their last one, and it was really nice. I've been in 8 now, so I got a little teary-eyed at the end of that. But
Yeah, endings are hard sometimes.
yeah,
Mary Beth had 4 solos though.
Yeah, you were
So
fabulous.
she
You
didn't
were
go out, she didn't go out in a
amazing.
little way, she went out in a big way.
thank you very much. Graduation is coming up, so that's June 14th. So that's getting very exciting. I'm school is winding down. I only have 9 days left, so
But who's counting?
But who's counting? I don't know the hours. And the baseball and the boys lacrosse team, they made it to the tournament. So that's very exciting.
Oh,
so that's kind of
that's
what's going
fabulous.
on. Yeah.
And this weekend is the Spofford tournament, right? So that's a big,
Right, Saturday and
that's a
Sunday.
big event, Saturday and Sunday at the field.
Chorus and chorale went to Six Flags, and the band.
And they got some.
Chorale got first, and chorus got. Where's Mrs. Plum? Chorus got second, right?
Well, first with
First. And then band got second.
First.
They got first too.
they got second.
They got second.
They got some kind of trophy in the middle school, I think that was a first, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And Georgetown was recognized for our character. They give out an award to one school every day, and we received it for our character. So that was a nice little honor there. So yeah.
That's good.
Oh, that's excellent.
I just wish the Six Flags trip would be nice weather.
Oh, it was still
It
fun.
didn't
Well, I know it didn't
rain. I mean,
rain,
it
but it was
missed
still-
it,
you
but it
still
didn't,
wanted
it
a little
didn't
bit.
rain.
Yeah.
But the lines were a little smaller, maybe because of the weather, so that was good.
Yeah, well, that is good.
Yeah.
Look at the glass half full.
Right.
Yeah, no, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad that you guys had fun.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Good. And last night you guys did a great job.
Thank you.
There was so many people there,
Yeah.
and I just can't imagine like going up, all those kids going up and doing the solos. Like I just give everybody just an A+ just
Yeah.
for getting up there.
There were a few kids who had never soloed before, and
Really?
That's
they
not
did
easy.
really well. So yeah.
Yeah, it was
not
a fun
easy.
night. That's good. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move along to the reorganization of the school committee. So,
we have an empty chair.
we do, yes, we have an empty seat here. So I do just want to make a plea to the community that we would love to have the seat filled. If you are interested in the position, you would need to, send us a letter, an email, any form of communication that would be best for you. It would be a year seat, and we would love to have an additional person. So, if you're thinking about it, give us a call.
And it would be a joint appointment.
Between the Board of Selectmen and the school committee, yes. So, hopefully we'll be hearing from somebody.
Hopefully. We get to
Okay.
recognize great students.
Yeah, right?
It's
a
really
very
very
rewarding
all
job.
about what
Fun, it's
happens
very
in the
rewarding.
schools in this town. This is the place to come and get the insider scoop and ask all your questions and raise all your concerns. This is a great vehicle for that, and to be a spokesperson for the community and to share the concerns of the community about the schools in a place where those concerns can be addressed and responded to. It's a great opportunity to do that.
For the benefit of all students.
For the benefit
yes.
of all students,
Very rewarding.
And we know there's many caring adults in this community, and we just need one of you to
We just
to
need
step
one.
in.
We just need one.
Bring your voice here. It
Okay.
doesn't have to be in unison with the rest of us either, at all.
That's right, that's true.
Okay,
Because this is
so we'll move along to the reorganization.
Yes.
The chairman position,
Okay.
So you
I would like to make a motion.
nomination.
I would like to make a nomination that we approve Barbie Linares as the chair of the school committee for the coming year.
Second?
So moved.
Shall we vote? Aye. Excellent.
I accept.
Excellent. Oh, yes, I guess that's a necessary part of the process, isn't it? Yes.
can we
So
vote
do
all
we
in
vote on
favor?
that?
Yep, you vote on it.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Great.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as the chair, I would like to entertain a motion to appoint or to nominate Pam Lundquist as vice chair of the school committee for 2014-2015.
I second.
So moved.
I accept.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving along, as the chair would like to entertain a motion to appoint or nominate Alana Pullard for the clerk position.
So moved. Oh, second. So moved.
Do you accept?
I accept.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
we
you. All in
vote?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, moving along to the attorney. The chair would like to entertain a motion to appoint Attorney Naomi Stormberg as the Georgetown School Committee's legal counsel for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, special education attorney. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to appoint the law firm of Sullivan, Nuttall, and McAvoy as the Georgetown School Committee Special Education Legal Counsel for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
A second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, subcommittees. Here's my subcommittee. Okay, budget and finance. The chair will entertain a motion to appoint Laureen Polignoni and myself, Barbie Linares, for the finance and budget subcommittee for 2014-2015 school year.
Do you wanna say with Alana being?
With Alana Pellet being the alternate.
So moved.
Second?
Accept.
Okay, good. Questions, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to appoint Laureen Polignoni and Pam Lundquist to the governance subcommittee with the alternate. That's an empty
Being the new person.
alternate, would be the new person. But don't let that hinder you from calling us.
It's not difficult, right, we,
Okay.
will help.
For the 2014-2015
I've been
school
on
year.
this committee before, I really enjoy it, yes.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
So the chair will entertain a motion to appoint to the negotiation subcommittee Barbie Linares and Alana Pellet with the newly elected school committee member as the alternate for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair will entertain a motion to appoint Pam Lundquist and the newly elected school committee member to the public relations subcommittee for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And the chair will entertain a motion to appoint Alana Pellet with the newly elected school committee member as the alternate to the safety subcommittee for the 2014-2015 school year. Anyone?
Are you wanting to do that?
Yeah,
Okay,
I do.
so moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to appoint to the technology subcommittee Pam Lundquist for the 2014-2015 school year with no alternate on this.
Yeah, that's pretty much, are you talking, Pam, about just the search committee? Cause I don't know that we're having a technology committee.
This,
Yeah, we may at some point, but we haven't discussed that yet,
Did-
so.
Oh, I was kind of
But-
interested in the technology plan going forward.
Yes, what we have to discuss, we don't have a standing technology subcommittee right now, so if you want to do that eventually, we'll certainly consider that.
I think I would.
But you're on the search committee with us right now.
Right, so could we, all
you
right.
can talk
So-
about forming one.
Yeah, well, that'll
Right.
be part of the discussion, but I
Can we
wanna
do that
see.
mid-year or?
Yeah, anytime.
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 Okay, good.
Cause that's kind of an ad hoc committee, it's not a standing, you have sort of three standing committees that
Right.
are really your purview, the budget and finance, negotiations, and policy, governance. Those are standing committees that the school committee
Well,
really
and-
should have,
and
these
it-
others are ad hoc
And it
committees.
says this is originally charged with developing a technology plan, so that's what it
know,
would be
but-
about.
Yes, it will, but we don't have a committee right now
Oh,
called the
right, I
technology committee.
understand, I understand.
When we convene one, then we make an appointment,
Okay,
we come back and talk with you again,
okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the
school building.
chair will entertain a motion to appoint Pam Lundquist to the school building committee for the
Maybe you're gonna be busy.
2014-2015 school year.
I like it, I enjoy it. It's good. So moved.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And the turf field project. The chair will entertain a motion to appoint Barbie Linares to the turf field project for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, that's your, that was mine.
Who's yours?
No, it's yours.
Okay, legislative liaison and crest representative. Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to appoint Carol Jacobs as the legislative liaison for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the chair will entertain a motion to appoint Pam Lundquist as the crest representative for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, district officers.
Yeah, those are the compliance officers.
Okay, so appointment of the Title II Compliance Coordinator. The chair will entertain a motion to appoint Donna Straight as the Title II Compliance Coordinator for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The chair will entertain a motion to appoint Joan Laporto as the Title, what's it be one?
Six.
Compliance Officer for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Joan again?
Yeah,
This one.
Joan's sort of doing the compliance stuff.
Okay. So, the chair will entertain a motion to appoint Joan Laporto as the Title IX Officer for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
It's a long time since we worked on Roman numerals.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, appointment of the Sexual Harassment Hearing Officer. The chair will entertain a motion to appoint Peter Lucia and Joan Laporto as the Sexual Harassment Hearing Officers for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The chair will entertain a motion to appoint Dr. Donna Straight as the Homeless Student Liaison for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, appointment of the school physician. The chair will entertain a motion to appoint Dr. William Medwood as the school physician for the 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the appointment of the warrant signature designee, which is currently me, but if someone else would like to do it, you can. Is there anyone else interested in that?
And Laura's reminding me we need an alternate too, so
For me?
if whoever decides they can't do it,
Okay.
we need somebody.
I'll be the alternate.
Okay.
Unless somebody else wants to.
I'm happy to do it. It's.
Okay,
I
are
mean,
you around during the day?
generally
It's,
Payroll warrants come out at the same time as the other warrants we need. No.
They sometimes what happens is Tricia will
Tuesday,
have,
Wednesdays.
yeah, Wednesdays, but usually like if there's a special warrant or something like that, they'll
Are they
contact
weekly
them.
or every other week?
It's more like
They're
every other
every
week.
other week.
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do it.
So the chair will entertain a motion to designate Alana Pellid as the payroll warrant signature
And
designee
Pam's.
for the 2014-2015 school year with Pam Lundquist as the alternate.
Okay, good.
And I'll get a notice of when I need
Yeah,
it on
she'll
it.
email
Yeah,
you.
they'll get you.
And I can let them know when I'm going out of town so that you can be there.
Then you let Pam know, yeah.
And hopefully we don't go out of town at the same time, is that the
Between the
idea?
two of you, you'll be able to do it.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. I have so many papers up here. Okay, so that's good. Let me just. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve, the consent agenda, which includes approval of regular session minutes of May 8th, 2014, public relations minutes of April 9th, 2014, public relations minutes of May 7th, 2014, governance minutes of May 8th, 2014, and acceptance of warrants number 47V14 and number 46P14.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to talk about an agenda item that isn't already on the agenda? Okay, thank you. And we'll move along to the Disney trip approval. Tracy and Laura, thanks for coming.
Thanks for your patience. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you? She's my bus
The
partner
the
last
spaghetti
Friday.
supper last night was
Yeah, we had
delicious.
fun
Oh,
together.
thank you.
Delicious.
It was
I
very
enjoyed
good,
that
yes.
very much.
Excellent.
So we are just here, I think you have some paperwork that Tracy has put together for you to ask for preliminary approval to begin our plans for the Disney trip for next year.
Yes.
Tracy is really great at planning and our tour guide and our tour manager, so she's doing a lot of the arrangements, but it would mean that we need to get a deposit down from our students soon to begin that plan. So I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, so I put an itinerary in front of you in the packet. It's a tentative plan until we're approved by Disney. We don't actually get our actual schedule. And we get the schedule for the band first, and the chorus we don't get until a couple of weeks before the actual performance. So this is just the tentative schedule, and it's a tentative price because, of course, airfare can do all sorts of things. So I have to wait until summertime when JetBlue opens their fares before I'll know what the airfare will be. And that's when I'll have the total for the cost. But that should be pretty close to what the students pay.
Okay.
I'm so jealous. I want to go back.
Did you have a good time
I
when
loved
you were down
it.
there?
It's a wonderful
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
I've been on it 3 times now, and I just think it's a very valuable
So you
experience.
go once in your
Yes, once
career?
every 4 years.
Once.
So I went as a freshman.
Okay.
It's wonderful. The kids get quite an experience, and going to the workshop is a new experience. And she got to go on that workshop and work with Disney people and help us sing, and then make a recording, and it was unforgettable.
Oh, good. Unforgettable. Yeah, it's great. I think people really look forward to it.
Yeah.
You know, they know it's coming. They know it's coming in 4 years. Yeah.
Great. This looks like a fabulous experience for the students. Now, when it says choice of Magic Kingdom, Epcot, MGM Studios, or Animal Kingdom,
We send chaperones to every park.
okay.
So that the students can be where they want to. Because once they're on Disney property, they're really limited to Disney property. There's no place
Right.
to go. So we have chaperones at the hotel and at each park.
Okay.
So that we're covered. I have a hotline that I call once an hour the entire time we're there. I don't
wow.
put that burden on the teachers and the chaperones. They have enough fun just chasing
Although
after the kids.
I got a lot of calls last time. But
Well, I mean, the
Yeah.
hotline that we have
Oh,
to
yeah.
call for Disney,
Right.
and they update us, and they'll say, okay, Haverhill High School, we need a chaperone at such and such park, or at the hotel, or wherever, and so that's our connection through Disney to keep track of things. And then the students all have the chaperones' phone numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have mine, because that would be a little crazy. They would all call me, as we showed the first trip.
Mine was
so-
on the top of the list.
Yeah, Laura's is on the top list, so she gets a lot of phone calls. Maybe we'll rotate that up this year. So they can reach the parents and the chaperones, because they have the entire list of chaperones, and I put in a little business card, and they each get a lanyard and a wallet, so that goes right in their wallet that they're wearing, so that anytime they can reach whoever they need. If they lose their passes, then they contact me, or anything like that. Or if they, just need somebody, they know they can reach us at any time.
Is this a time that Disney is, like, the parks are primarily visited by groups, high school groups?
This is April vacation for
Okay,
so it's a
they're
busy
families.
for a lot of states. So yeah, they're
Right.
very busy at this time of year,
So it's not just anybody could.
which
be
is
a
why I
park.
have to do it
Anybody.
so far in
Yeah.
advance, because
Yeah,
it
of course.
is,
Yeah,
and across the world, they meet people from all over the world when they go to Disney. So it's really a unique experience.
They march down Main Street.
Well,
in their
hopefully.
uniforms.
That's
I've
never a
done
guarantee,
that.
but hopefully.
I got to do that in high school. I got to march in Disney, so I know. But we didn't get coached by anybody at Disney.
Yeah, that's
We got a
new.
backstage
That's a new
tour, though.
experience, yeah.
It is a
Yeah,
good-
and that was great because you actually worked that in
Yeah.
last year, so we got
Right.
to actually appreciate the
workshop.
product of the workshop, yeah.
And both workshops were excellent.
Yeah, it sounds like they were.
So when do you know if you're gonna march down Main Street? Like, when is that told?
And not until we get our application in, which we will record their parade on Monday. And then I'll send in the applications. I already have the chorus's application video. So we have to send pictures of the uniforms, videotape of their performances, and then wait for their response. So it's really a matter of when Disney gets back to us.
Do you want to speak about the uniforms, just while you're
Yeah,
talking? You
that's-
can make a little plug
We're
on
in
TV.
the current process of getting new uniforms, so we're trying to raise $50,000, and at this point, I believe we've
About
raised
halfway.
$24,000 to $25,000.
That's
So-
Within a few months.
They're a
so
really nice
we're-
mock-up, and tell them about the current uniforms.
Yeah, the current uniforms are from 1972.
I know, we heard, somebody came.
So I was a student at Pearlie when these uniforms came out, and so by the time I wore them in Georgetown Junior Senior High at the time, and Mrs. Monjo back there as well with me, they were already old when we wore them. So now they're just beyond repair. There's no way to salvage them at this point. They've served their time.
They
Yes,
have
more than
Time to
served their
replace them.
time.
You
Yeah.
guys have done a great job, though, with raising that much money in
Oh,
such
yeah,
a short
that's a
time. I mean,
huge
you
have.
have really thought about everything to do.
Yeah, the
So,
music
and-
parents and some volunteers have really put in a lot of time.
Yeah.
Margot Loomis in particular, the president of the
Yeah,
music
when
parents
she
right
was,
now.
she was here and we talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
very
our
much
next,
resourceful group.
we're now reaching out to companies.
Yeah,
We really
corporations.
are hoping to get a little more from big companies
Sure.
that might go into it, so.
Right.
It's a good
That's
idea.
great.
That's a good idea.
Like,
Right, the
they
kids
accept
deserve
you.
it.
And, oh, here's some money. Get some new uniforms. Wouldn't be nice.
Oh, they have so many students. Even the day we perform, if we, well, say for the past trip, in the Magic Kingdom alone, I think there were 8 or 9 groups. So you multiply that times the 3 parks that they perform in, plus Downtown Disney, times, 365 days a year, because there are students there performing every day. Plus the Candlelight Processional and other programs they have, it's a lot of students. So we pay them. But we have to be accepted first, and we have a really good standing. We've been performing since 1991 at Disney. So there's a long
And
history.
do families take advantage of it too? Do a lot of families end up going?
They do. The last trip I was really surprised. We had about half of the students had parents or family there.
And then the kids would stay longer. Like
Right.
they would come and then do the workshops with all of us, and then they would stay a couple days and just be with their family. A lot of
That's
kids
nice.
did
Yeah,
that.
it was fun because when you perform, like.
We have
the
an
di-
audience
and
built
there's
in,
an
yeah.
audience, cheering us on, and they're all people we know. It's really awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
It's really great.
That's good.
They followed us after the parade in the Magic Kingdom. That was kind of fun.
Sounds great.
It sounds great. Thank you for all that you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
You do a lot. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So, how many chaperones do you have, like, per child or per student?
We have approximately 1 for every 15 students. That varies because I don't want this
Trip to
cost
trip.
to go up too much. More people we have, the more expensive it gets. So because of the airline,
do
the
you
airfare,
cap the
more
number?
more seats I need on an airline, the higher our price for everybody goes. So
Okay.
I try to keep it no more than 15, 1 per 15 students.
No, okay.
Plus all the parents that are there. I mean, it's amazing how many parents actually stay at our hotel.
Right, so you cap the number of chaperones that are,
Well, per
covered here?
student,
Per
just per
student,
student. So if we get more students, then there's more chaperones.
and then parents could just decide to join you.
And do.
And do.
And do,
And pay
yeah.
their own way,
Right.
and, yes, okay.
Yeah, and if they volunteer a few hours in the park, I'm able to give them half-price tickets or approximately half-price tickets
Okay.
in
So that's an
trade for
incentive.
helping out
Right.
as a volunteer chaperone. So that works well too.
That's nice. Yeah.
But if they're paying their own way, can they book rooms in the same area?
Oh, yeah.
That
Oh,
they can
definitely.
be with you as
Right.
part of the group?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably not stay with their kids. The students
No,
would stay
they,
with
yeah, we don't
students.
have that.
Okay.
So the students would stay with their
Right.
classmates.
It's a great
part of the
opportunity
fun.
for them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really fun.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. Okay. Any more questions for me? No. Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve the Georgetown High School Band and Chorus Disney Magic Music Days trip to Orlando, Florida. The dates would be Wednesday, April 15th, returning Sunday, April 19th. I'm not gonna add in the cost, because you're not positive
It's
about
not
the cost.
definite yet, no.
As presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted those parents going.
Can I just have one more question? Sure. About when would a deposit be requested?
That's gonna be before school gets out, so I'm hoping by June 16th, so that we have room for stragglers. And then there's always some chorus students in particular that will join in September because
fall.
they don't know they're going to be in chorus yet.
Right.
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 Because they have their schedules.
But I try to keep that at a minimum because I've already gotten airline tickets at that point.
Right.
So it's harder for me to book tickets for them.
Okay, and the deposit would be like half the
$100.
price?
It's
Oh, just
just-
$100,
It's
okay.
just the airline fees, so the
Okay.
non-refundable airline fees, that's it.
Okay.
That's the only thing I can't get back.
If there's
All
a
right, thank
financial
you.
need, do we do anything for
Yes.
families?
We help.
You do?
Oh, good.
Great.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay, good. Thank you,
Thank
ladies.
you.
Thank
Have
you.
a nice night. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna head out.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
Thank you for having me all year.
Oh, this is your last meeting?
This is my last. Take
Oh,
my
my
class.
goodness.
You won't be here on
thank
June
you.
9th?
No, I Yeah, I'm done the 6th, so.
Oh,
Well,
man.
congratulations.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Good luck.
Thank you so
with
much for
all of your
everything.
future
It's been a
We'll be hearing
pleasure
all
to
about
have
you.
you.
You'll do wonderful. Good luck.
Thanks,
You will.
Mary.
Let us know.
Shouldn't have to be that happy. Right?
The standing ovation back there.
That's good. Okay, the audience is dwindling.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go on to administrative reports, and
so-
I'm very happy about this.
Yeah, so Hope and Margaret, do you wanna come on up to the table? So yes, this is a happy thing we're gonna talk about now. We wanna introduce you to Hope, Hope Doran, who is our assistant principal at the elementary.
Hi there.
Forging new ground, because we've never had an elementary assistant principal.
Thank you for coming. It's
So,
very nice to meet
very
you.
exciting. So we did put Hope's resume in your packet so you'd have a little bit of information about her. But, you know, we talked about it a couple meetings ago. Wouldn't it be great if we could, you know, bring Hope and have you meet her? Because you'd heard about her, now you get to meet her. I have a face with a name. And, you know, if you have anything in particular you'd like to ask Hope, I don't know, Margaret, if you wanna make a couple of comments to start, and then maybe Hope, if you would.
Well, again, I'm very happy that Hope has agreed to be the assistant principal for the new Pembroke. We started the process in January, collecting resumes, and then Julie and I, over February vacation, spent a day going through resumes. I had over 100 applications.
That's great.
So,
That makes me feel good.
Yeah,
It's like, yes.
definitely. We narrowed the field to about 15, started interviewing, and then narrowed it down. We did 3 site visits, and then, and again, had, you know, great candidates, but in the end, what I was looking for, somebody with teaching experience in the upper elementary. Again, my teaching experience is in the lower elementary. Somebody with strong curriculum, because bringing together, you know, K to 6 school, building that infrastructure is really going to be important. That's going to create that community. So, again, someone teaching experience, strong curriculum, and somebody, there's a spark and a connection.
Yeah, we were very impressed with Hope's energy, enthusiasm, you know, she's, you know, got a strong background, but, you know, we're also looking, it's a new position, right? So we've got a new team, and it is really important that, you know, everybody, that's why it's gonna be helpful, I think, that next year, in the transition, you know, cause Margaret's gonna have to do both buildings. The opportunity to have the team in place for a full year, where both schools get an opportunity to work with them, is gonna make the transition the following year, when we
Right.
move into the new building, I think a bit more you know,
So I'm curious, so
seamless.
Hope, where will you be sitting next year? Is
Well-
that determined?
Kind of. We talked about, you know, switching days, so I'll be at Pearlie 3 days to start, and then at Pembroke 2 days, and we're gonna
Okay.
kinda.
And you'll like,
Well,
be-
again,
Back and
you know,
forth.
this is the plan. I say, you know,
Yeah.
the first
We
day I'll be
try.
like,
That's the
oh,
way
you know,
plans,
enough
right,
of that.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
may not work, but what I envision is a Monday morning being together at Pearlie, you know, starting the day together, again, so I can see Pearlie children, and then go over to Pembroke on Monday, and then do a Tuesday, Thursday at Pembroke, and Wednesday, Friday at Pearlie. And then spend time in the other school, but then again, some time together, because we'll wanna do walkthroughs and visit classrooms and attend some meetings together.
Sure.
So, but just like it is now, when I leave the building, you know, I ask somebody to just be on call. And, so you know, the same thing, if I'm not in one place, just have somebody on call.
And we just had a joint staff meeting with Pearlie and Pembroke recently that I was able to go to, so that
Oh,
was
that's
nice.
good. And that went well?
Yeah.
Very well,
Did.
yeah.
That's good.
And they met with the
I
sixth
was
grade
gonna say, and we
teachers.
also went over to the middle school and had an opportunity, it was MCAS, but we kind of walked around and just said hello to teachers as they were getting ready.
Oh, that's nice.
Cause the decision about which sixth grade teachers
Sure.
come still is in flux.
Sure.
So, you know, Margaret just met met all of the people who are currently affiliated with sixth grade, and, you know, because we don't want that group to feel left out. I mean, they're gonna be a major piece of the
Well,
community.
so that's, my question, I guess my next question is, and it's perfectly okay to say you haven't figured this out yet, but I think like as we build this new school, there's, I'm sure, lots of opportunities for input from all the key players, from all the administrators and all the school staff, the teachers, the secretaries, all the school building personnel. And I just am wondering if you have an idea, do you have a plan sort of in your mind how you're going to get to know all those key players and gather their ideas and their hopes and their concerns? Like, is there just ideas about how that?
For me or for Hope?
For both of you.
Oh.
For both of you.
Well,
I mean,
again,
that's-
this year, I've really started that transition process. Starting in September, I met with the sixth grade team, and I have had joint faculty meetings between Pearlie and Pembroke. I haven't had a chance to really sit down with secretaries and cafeteria personnel yet, that, more towards the end of the year. We've had joint school council meetings, and I've attended leadership meetings, so there's been lots of opportunities. And Joe Patella has come to school council because, again, starting that transition, we don't know who's coming, and we don't know the representatives, but he represented the team. So this has really been throughout the year, we've had these opportunities. And then we had our last school council meeting on Wednesday, and it was a joint meeting.
Great.
And then we'll start the year in September, meeting together, and then maybe do some work apart, because we still do have 2 school improvement plans. So for a part of the year, we're going to need to concentrate on, finishing up what we have. And then next year, we'll be writing the plan that will be the one Pembroke plan for the following year.
Wow.
And then part of the transition planning this year has to do with Margaret meets with the incoming second grade parents.
That's,
So
yep, in a
that's
couple
coming, that's
weeks.
coming up, so there can be some conversation about some questions that they might have
But
about
again,
next year.
the second grade parents are my first grade parents now, so,
Yes.
we do know each other. Elizabeth Carroll did offer to help with that transition, because I will be right there with them. I haven't been at Pembroke, so some of that, when the parents come over, obviously I know the way some things operate, and I know curriculum and that sort of thing, but arrival dismissal, so Elizabeth very graciously offered to help out with that, so that was nice. So, we are having lots of opportunities to already transition, and then going into next year, of course, many more.
Yeah, I think from the sounds of it, you have it all. You're prepared. You're well prepared for what's gonna happen next year. And I think the parents should feel that you're doing everything that you possibly can to make the kids transition,
Thank you.
I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's really is keeping that communication open, and again, just meeting, paying attention to what people are saying, and, following through, so.
Yeah, and Margaret she's been very sensitive to, Dr. Tanner's feelings too, because, when you announce that you're gonna retire, and then it's your last year, you wanna enjoy what that looks like too. And the last thing you sort of wanna worry about is that the next person coming in is gonna step on your toes on the way out the door. So I have to say, I think Margaret, it has walked that line very well. And, I think Donna's appreciated that.
Well, I think you have big shoes to fill, but I have no doubt that you'll fill them well.
Well, when I taught years ago, then took a leave, maternity leave, and when I came back to teaching, I actually started in a long-term maternity, I covered a sub. And what I said to parents and the children is, we're different people. We do some things the same, some things different. We both love children, we both love, what we're doing, but some things we're just different people. So that's what I prepare people for. We have the end goal is the same, but we're different people. So you just have to know, as much as we do many things the same, you can't replicate a person, so some things will change.
And so one of the things that, to help also with the transition this year is, Margaret is actually working with the staff at Pembroke to create the classes for next year.
Oh, good.
Because we couldn't quite figure out a way to make that work. Donna will be involved in, you know, looking at the lists and helping Margaret, you know, if there's any feedback she'd like to offer. But it seemed just cleaner to just have it work that way, and then whatever decisions get made, Margaret knows why the decisions were. If somebody else makes decisions and makes lists, and then you have to inherit it and you're not quite sure, why it happened, you're sort of at a disadvantage. So I think that's one of the things I think that will help.
Well, that's a difficult
next
time
year.
anyways, I
It's
think.
very difficult, yeah.
Just making the,
But Margaret will know
Yeah,
the
that's-
group.
yes.
Yeah.
No, 'cause then you get the letters, you know,
Knowing
from
parents in this
too, and you
town,
have
and
to.
they all have very
right?
strong
Yeah,
feelings.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
still,
about their
do they still
children
allow
should-
that?
They
You're
do
nodding
allow
like you
the
understand
letters,
this, so that's
not
good.
necessarily a name, but you know, and then
We
obviously
definitely-
they're trying very hard to balance the classes.
Right. I will say, I have found parents to be very respectful of that process. And I encourage the letters, because the last thing you want is for your child the next year, and then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, you know, I wish I had spoken up, and again, we don't take teacher requests, but I wanna know, you know, has your family had an experience with a teacher? Good, or maybe, you know, siblings that have had a child, but children are different. Sometimes what works for one child may not work for another child.
Right.
So parents know their child, they know what kind of personality they are and how they learn best. So I like that. I also wanna know, who are your child's learning partners? Not necessarily best friend, but who do they learn well? Or who, you know, maybe they don't learn well together. So those are things that we wanna know.
Yeah, and knowing doesn't mean that you're gonna definitely
gonna
get all
get
that
it,
you
but-
wish, but,
Yeah.
you know, but I agree, it's like part of that communication, you
Sure.
know, it's part of that, you know, keeping that communication.
Now, when will we
Open.
know which sixth grade, teachers are moving over?
It won't be that long. We're talking about different kinds of certification questions and issues, because
I'm sure there's
some
things that
people
need
are
to be worked out.
some people are content specific,
Mhm.
trained, and really have no experience teaching any other kind of content. Some people happen to have a elementary certification through grade 6. So those are the kind of conversations that we're having, and it relates also to the work Peter's doing with the schedule. Cause there are some of those people, you know, who might stay at the middle school, you know, in their content area, and that might open positions at the 6th grade that are positions to be filled. So it's really just trying to lay it all out in a way that
And
the
I'm
right people
sure-
get in the right places.
There's gonna be lots of questions in parents' mind of what is 6th grade gonna look
Well,
like.
we'll have
Yeah,
a
I'm
conversation
excited
here about that.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've already we've been talking about that for a while, and, you know, we've done some research, we've gone out and looked at models, because, you know, we all have our opinions, and sometimes our opinions come from our experience.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sure everyone
sometimes
has the
they're-
experience of what a 6th grade should look like, and yet
Yeah,
there's lots
well,
of
if
different ways
if
to
you've lived
do
your
it.
life in an elementary school, then you might think, oh, well then just make the 6th grade, you know, self-contained, and the teacher teaches every subject, just like happens there, or maybe you switch for a couple. And then if you're somebody who's spent your time in more middle school, then you say, well, content is really important, so do you then create 2-person teams, 3-person teams? Do you switch? So there's a lot of things that are being discussed, but we are discussing them, and I think we're trying to make unemotional decisions. We're trying to really look at what are the needs, what might be right and best for our population of kids in our district. Because remember, we're gonna have two grades left, so it's 7 and 8. So, you know, the question is, do you organize it quite the way you have it now? Do you do something with more organized by content departments or team departments? There's all these things and so there are gonna be a lot of questions people will have, but believe me, when we're at the point when we're ready to discuss that, there'll be plenty of opportunities for discussion. But we're just right now researching what are the options and playing with, what are the pros and cons of each, because what we wanna do is make the right decision.
Absolutely.
For us, you know, we don't wanna just jump right to the conclusion of what might, you know, make us comfortable. We wanna really look at, well, what are the implications for students? What is the K-12 philosophy and perspective?
Sure.
So we'll definitely have conversations here about that. That's why next year is really gonna help us, because we have that whole year. So one of the things that Margaret and I have talked about is, you know, it goes to the question of the angst that people might be feeling is, you know, Margaret and Hope, really next year is a real, like a listening year for them, you know? So before Margaret, you know, people worry that Margaret's gonna take Red Sox Day away, or there's no longer gonna be there's never no longer gonna be a third grade animal project. You know, we just need to look at everything, because Margaret has no way of knowing right now, like, what is embedded in the culture that's really critical? And, you know, what are the benefits to these different things? What do people care most about? Some people might not care about everything that we think they care about. You know, but Margaret gets a year before the traditions get built into the new school to really take a look, you know, and she can make some changes, but she's not gonna change everything, because she doesn't really understand how it works there yet.
Right.
You don't understand until you walk into a culture and you live there,
Sure.
right? But there are some things like common approaches, like we wanna have a common pupil study team process, which is part of what we'll talk about when Donna talks. You know, maybe they're different now, and maybe one's more effective than the other. You can change something like that, but you just don't go in and make whole scale change. You know, that would be silly, and Margaret has said that to me, that'd be silly. And so we're not going there, but it's a year of watching, listening, learning, building relationships, talking together, communicating with the constituencies, so that we're in a spot when we move in.
And leading, I think
And
that's
leading,
the other, I
absolutely,
mean,
yeah.
which is challenging, like to be in that place where you're learning and leading at
Yep,
the same time.
yep.
But I do think that that's,
Yeah.
you know, part of what's like, well, who's running the show if everybody's trying to figure out how the show works?
Yeah, no, good
That's-
leaders learn by listening.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed my time over at Pembroke this year. I have found everybody to be welcoming, and again, it's hard to say goodbye. It's
Very
hard to
hard.
let go of, you know, one person and then to embrace, you know, moving forward. But again, I think that's what this year has been. You know, it is that change, and having that full year to come to terms and to grips with that. But so people have been very gracious and welcoming, and we've had some nice discussions, and it's been
really
good.
nice to hear
so.
you say that. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And you've already been talking about what traditions are important.
Right.
You know, what traditions at Pearlie are important that they would
Sure.
love to see come to the new school, because that, you know, that, and you know, because like Margaret said, with change, there is a sense of loss. You have to let people like have that opportunity, and then they will come together, and it will be an amazing school. It will be an amazing school.
And it will include a survey of the children to find out what, you know, what are some things that are
That
important.
they're thinking about, yeah.
It's great. That is good. And we have to talk too about the whole Camp Kiev thing, like what's gonna happen
yeah,
there,
we do.
right?
Yeah,
Because that's
yeah,
usually
definitely.
Do you make
sixth
it, do you
grade,
make
and-
it a sixth grade
Do you
trip?
make it a sixth grade, yeah.
How that first fifth grade next year,
Yeah.
what happens to them? Because
Yes.
they will be that first sixth grade year, so how do we make that a transition?
Right.
So all those little things that are
Yeah.
seemingly you forget about, that will be huge, so.
So it's so good to have you here,
Yes,
Hope.
thank you.
Thank you for taking the
Yes.
time to come out tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
And,
Good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You'll do great.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
That's
good to hear. That's good to
Okay,
know.
thanks, ladies.
Good luck.
Thank
Thanks.
you. All right, great.
Okay, the approval of the middle school student parent handbook.
Yeah, so we're not gonna do the elementary one, it is in your packet, so
Okay.
kinda hang on
We'll
to
do
that.
that at 12?
But I think Margaret might make some changes to it, so we'll probably give you a new one, is that right, Margaret?
We can talk about it.
No, let's wait, let's,
Yeah, we
let's
can wait.
Let's wait, cause then you'll have a better chance
Because
to.
I haven't even, I like to look at it, and I stopped looking at it when Laura told me that it was gonna be.
Oh, we got a big team coming from the middle high
Whole
school
team here tonight.
The
Oh,
whole
it's nice to
team.
see all of you. Good to see
Hello.
you all.
Great to see all of
Hi,
you.
everybody.
After hours, it's
Thank you
good.
for your patience. Yes.
Okay. So, just to give you a little background on how we do this, this is a yearly process, and we form subcommittees of the school council. We have one for the athletic handbook, for the middle school handbook, and the high school handbook. So, depending upon which subcommittee you are, there's combination of teachers and students and parents, and together they recommend changes to the whole school council, and then the school council recommends to me, and then I decide which ones we will go forward with. And I can tell you that all of the changes from the subcommittees were unanimously supported by the school council, and I think outside of one where they wanted to allow gum, that's the one I gotta put my foot down for.
Add gum?
I bet you could chew gum.
Yeah.
Problem
Can't
with,
you?
No.
Can't chew gum in school.
problem with gum is you never know where it's gonna end up.
Put your hands under the desk.
Yeah. Gum at home is one thing.
Is that
What
an
happens if
issue?
you chew gum?
No.
Big
No,
trouble.
no, don't.
You put it on
yeah.
your nose?
Yeah, don't
So
chew
we
gum.
used to stand in the corner and
You
put
don't
it on
want,
your
you don't
nose.
want to find out.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, I'm taking all my kids' gum out of their pockets.
So, this year, some new laws were enacted just very recently, at the end of March, that deals with attendance and suspension and a slight revision to the bullying laws. Consequently, we had our attorneys advise us on those laws, and at that time, they looked at our whole handbook, all of the handbooks in the district.
Wow.
So what I'm presenting to you are things that are not necessarily parts of the new law, but some things that the lawyers thought that we should have in our handbooks anyway. And so I won't get into detail, I'll just give you the categories. If you want to ask me specific questions, I can, but I'm gonna put a disclaimer out there right now that we're just learning about the new laws right now. So there'll be lots of workshops and stuff like that going on. They do go into effect on July 1st. So we'll be spending the summer really becoming more and more familiar with it. And of course, anytime that they're new, I'm sure they'll be challenged, hopefully not by our district, but other ones, and that's how they work out the kinks. So the way I organized this presentation to you is I included changes that affect all of the handbooks. So that's the first part. The first category deals with student records. That wasn't in our handbook at all. Our attorney felt that it should be. These are things that we deal with on a daily basis, and now they're in our handbooks. The second part is, well, I want to call your attention to, on the second page, number 3, dispensing medications. That is a part of our medication policy that's in the handbook, but we did not state that if you're found in possession, it's illegal to be in possession of prescription drugs that you don't have a prescription for.
Right.
And you can't carry, even if you do, you can't carry those around in the school. They have to be in the bottle, the prescription bottle, and held at the nurse. So we kind of shored up that.
Can I just ask
Yep.
you, is that just for prescription drugs? Like what if, like a Tylenol or an Advil?
You can, there's no disciplinary action for that.
Because they're not.
Yeah, because they're
legal.
not prescription.
So a child
You
can, you don't have to give that to the nurse. I know
Right.
at Pembroke in the elementary,
Right.
we would,
Yeah.
we would give the Tylenol to the nurse.
Right.
At your level, you don't have to do that.
No. The next part talks about the suspension laws, and again, this is all, there are some new changes to it, and I think where it comes from is that there's some school districts, I think it's fair to speculate that probably more urban school districts have higher rates of suspension and long-term suspensions. We don't really have that here. But they wanted, I guess the legislators wanted to have some protections there. So basically, there gives regular ed kids the same protection as special ed kids that are disciplined with regard to suspension that you have to provide for their education if you suspend somebody over 10 days.
The right to make academic progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are some, there's more notification involved now. So before someone can actually begin to serve a suspension, the parents have to be notified in writing. A lot of these things in the law are our standard practices already. So, for example, contacting the parent and letting them know, well, we always do that. Anytime there's a suspension, we call home. So it's the law now. There's some things about attendance in here. If you're out a particular amount of days, parents have to come in, you have to have a conference, you have to make a plan with the families, and that holds true not just to be absent for the whole day, but absent from class. So if you're absent from class more than,
I think it's 5, no?
I think it's 2 times in a 5-day period.
2 or more periods for 5
periods.
days.
Yeah, yeah. Then that, you would fall into that same kind of protocol. So that, I guess that's the target of kids that come in tardy habitually. So that's pretty much what these laws are about. In all of them, it urges the principal to consider alternatives to suspension when discipline comes out. Well, we always do that anyway. So we look for the most effective thing when you consider all of the elements involved in a particular incident. So all of that stuff is part of the new laws. So
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
When it says unexcused absences, or when you call in the morning and say, and you get the recording and it says, if your child is tardy, but it's an unexcused tardy, so what would an unexcused tardy be? If the child doesn't have like an appointment?
We outline 5 or 6 criteria that we get from the state.
The handbook, right? You have to
Yeah,
find
it's
that
in the
handbook.
handbook.
I know I've asked this before.
The current handbook.
So, okay, so,
You don't have a copy, right?
so if a child is late,
Right.
Well, I could tell you, like, oversleeping's not an excuse tardy. Excuse would be like doctor's appointment,
Yeah.
medical emergency, family
Yeah.
emergency,
Court.
funeral, things like that. And then everything else falls under the unexcused tardy.
okay.
And how tardy is tardy?
A second.
Yeah.
7:31.
Yeah.
I
And then
don't know.
in our
2 minutes late, yeah.
in our handbook, we allow for 3 unexcused tardies per semester before we start any discipline.
3 per semester.
3 per semester, yeah.
Okay. So even if the parent, I just know that this came up a couple of weekends ago. Someone had said to me, well, my child was up doing homework and I let them sleep in. It was a half an hour that they came in late. And she, her as the
That would
parent
count
was
as
saying
an
that,
unexcused.
that was my call as the parent.
Right.
That I was doing what was best for my child.
Do you want my suggestion?
Sure.
I would write on the note that it was a medical emergency.
Okay. Right, well, sure, I mean, that.
You know,
that
we-
could be
I guess
considered
what he's basically saying is it's a choice. So that parent did what she thought was right and best for her child on that day, but it would count as an unexcused tardy.
Right, well, I think what she was getting at is, I could have written a note saying one of,
Right.
any
She's trying to
reason
be
that would
honest,
have
yeah.
been, right, and she was
But
just
you
trying to
ha-
be
you
honest.
have
and-
3 of those that you.
Yeah, and it definitely wasn't within those 3, but she was just saying, well,
It was after the 3?
no, she didn't, she was just saying, that should be my call as a parent. We were just talking about the whole unexcused thing.
And
So
it is
the
her
child
call as a
wasn't
parent.
over the 3.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, she was just saying
Yeah.
that, she was just wondering why, as a parent, if that was her call, why she
Well,
couldn't she?
we
But
get
I
in,
would say that.
that's a
But then how would you?
very common,
how would
that's
you say
been,
consistently for all the kids?
been going on forever, and that's why we use the state guidelines.
Yeah.
So, and there's a difference between being unexcused and being truant. So, when you're unexcused, it means we know that you're here, and we don't accept the reason based on the guidelines that the state gives us, as opposed to they don't have the parent's permission to be, and then that's a whole different ballgame with disciplinary action, etc.
Well, I'm sure you must have students that are late.
Oh, yeah, that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, and that is, right.
Yeah.
I think it's even in elementary, I know that was a problem too.
It's a
that the
problem
kids were
in any
coming in
school
late.
district that I've ever worked at.
But, and guys' advice to write a note saying that this is a medical situation. I mean, sometimes it is, you know, anxiety, depression, or
Yeah,
for
but
whatever.
those are
many,
different.
many
Yeah,
risks.
those are
They
those are
different.
covered.
Yeah, I mean, if they're diagnosed,
Yeah.
I mean, I know it gets really complicated and everything, but
Yeah.
it really can be, I mean, a medical
Yeah.
situation, and so.
Yeah, things aren't black and
Right,
white, and we don't
no,
just
they're
sit there
not.
and
No,
say,
I understand.
you know,
Right.
we.
Right, but if you as a parent feel that that's what it is,
Yeah.
then writing a
Right.
note to
Right.
that effect is a good
But
idea.
that's part of the new law, why we want the parents to come in and get involved in that, to make that kind of communication more smooth.
And as a responsible parent, if you do feel that your child has that problem, I would hope that you'd be in contact with a doctor, you know, pediatrician.
Yep. Okay, moving on, just the new one that I learned going through all of this is number 8, that there's a Massachusetts law that prohibits the unnecessary idling of motor vehicles on school property. I actually went, there was a bus the other day waiting for a field trip, and it was idling in front of the building, making a racket for a long time, so we went out
Smell
and
probably wasn't great
told
either.
them had to shut it down, so with this new law. I
For
said,
the
"Hey."
Mass General
Yeah.
Law, Chapter 90,
Yeah,
16A.
Yeah, that's having to
Yeah.
do with the air quality and
Sure.
pollution and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Just some updating on things, the hazing, I guess, over the years, the fine went from 500 to 1,000, so we updated things like that. This bullying stuff that includes other people outside of student to student has, you guys, your policy includes this, but I think it happened after we did the handbook revisions last year, so we're putting it back in. We've always had at the middle high school a mandatory reporting for bullying, but now that's written in there. Here's an interesting one. We had some really old language in the handbook, number 15, that said the school committee could expel for alcohol. And I think that predates educational reform.
Yeah.
So the lawyer picked that one up, and
That's good, we didn't wanna deal with
Yeah.
that.
yeah, you don't want to deal with that. And
Neither, but.
yeah, nor do we, but.
Yeah.
So again, this chapter 7137H and 3/4, that's the new
Practice
discipline, the new discipline laws. Number 17, I think this one is gonna take an amendment to the district's tobacco policy.
Okay.
Yeah, I highlighted that, that looks.
Yeah, so there are new delivery devices that school districts across New England, or probably the country, are finding that kids are finding ways to put stuff in there and get high, and certainly we don't want that, and thus we're asking that we make those types of devices, delivery devices, to prohibit those on school property. So, but that, we thought the attorney thought the best place for that would be in the tobacco policy, so
We can
you guys
make
would
that
have
up
to.
Governance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so those are the changes to all of the handbooks. And now, just some high school things, high school specific things. We did some head injury protocols under the school nurse. You know, we were always talking about drop off and pickup protocol. We never put it in the handbook. So it's gonna be in the handbook now, hopefully. you have already approved the graduation, the 4 years of social studies, so that kind of changes the graduation, the numbers and the graduation requirements, so that's all that, that is.
Peter?
Yep.
How do you, your drop-off and pickup policy, how do you,
Back to that.
you know, like if somebody does go in at 2:10, I don't see anybody out there like saying, you can't, you know, I see
Yeah,
Charlotte.
we do it in
I'm
the,
always parked
right.
there really early, and I see people go up there no matter what time it is.
Yeah,
So
we
what's-
don't, it's not so much of a problem in the afternoon, and I think it is because that anybody that's tried that gets stuck in there with the
Oh, it
buses.
doesn't wanna have to deal with
Yeah,
getting
it's
out
kind
of
of a different ballgame in the morning,
Mm.
so, you know, it's.
Well, Mrs. Battle does a good job
She
preventing
does.
anybody from going up in the morning.
She does, and,
But in the afternoon.
it's really something that, it's tough to enforce, and we just continue to educate and plead with people, because really, there aren't any ordinances against it, and
Well, it's for the safety of
It-
the
it-
kids.
it is.
Doesn't the
Yeah.
sign
Bottom
say
line
that
is
you're
the
not
safety.
allowed to enter the
it
area?
does, but
Yeah, sign
it,
right there.
there's,
So that's a traffic-
there's no
no
enforcement.
enforceability.
There's no
No
enforceability of
no.
it, no.
Sorry.
So, and it's not students doing it, so,
And it's not a
Uh,
police matter
yeah.
because it's not, it's a public road.
Mr. Prescott
We
can't give
direct
detentions to
Yeah,
parents.
I'd like to. We direct traffic up there if there's any problems. It's usually the bus will tell us that they can't make the turn,
Yeah,
or there's a
it's
problem.
usually not a
And
problem.
we would go down and move people around, and if we see it's congested, we do move people around. But if people are helping and helpful, you know, we get through it pretty good.
Can you just clarify this language and maybe say, when picking up your child at dismissal, you need to make a plan to pick up off school grounds? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I pick up my child, you know, if I need to, for some kind of event
Get that?
during the day. Or is it too late? I mean.
No, we haven't done it yet.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this is a proposal to you, so you
So
can,
when you're picking up your child
At
at
dismissal,
dismissal,
right, because it's okay, I mean, if you're picking them up after lacrosse, for lacrosse practice.
so
it's
add
4 o'clock, it's
dismissal
okay
after
to go up
pickups.
and-
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
add the
It's
word
okay to go
dismissal
there.
after pickups.
Or if you're
Okay.
picking them up for a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day, it's okay to drive up there.
Yep,
But it's at dismissal, that's the time that you really wanna prevent
yeah,
this.
good point, yep. Okay, under D, student, this is, we're just writing it, but it is you know, the lockers belong to us, so there's no expectation for privacy.
Good.
So we just wanted, the lawyers wanted to make sure that that was just in the handbook. And the middle school changes, not much at all, just eliminating progress reports. The middle school handbook hasn't really been revised in 3 or 4 years, so we're going through that with a fine-tooth comb, but we're not proposing, we're proposing to you policy changes. We're cleaning it up, we're changing some wording, stuff like that. A perfect example is we're removing our old mission statement, putting in our new statement of core values and beliefs and stuff like that. Making it what we feel is more kind of middle school friendly with the wording and stuff like that. So we're just bringing to you the policy changes. So they're really outside of what we do. Most of the changes are building changes, all of the ones that I just went through. So it's just that. And then for the athletic handbook, I'm going to let Mr. DeFranco speak real quickly on that.
So there's 2 pieces to this. One is that there are some athletic policies in the main handbook, but then we also have an athletic handbook, which kind of goes more in detail, more in depth on policies. So the main handbook, I'm just going to grab this from you. There's kind of minor changes. The family cap was incorrect. It is $1,500. It's not $1,750. We actually reduced that when we raised the user fees. So just sort of as a, co-ops, we thought we would list them. So
Good idea.
yeah, so I think people know who we have. We're trying to do girls volleyball with Triton. So Triton will be the host school.
Great.
We have girls ice hockey with Masconomet. We have boys ice hockey with Pentucket. We have co-ed swim with Triton. We're going to be trying to do co-ed indoor track with Triton. We have wrestling, which we host with Ipswich, and we have co-ed outdoor track with Triton, which we piloted this year and worked out really well. So basically 2 new co-ops, the volleyball and the indoor track.
Excellent, excellent.
And then our field hockey program changed a little bit. We brought middle school field hockey back last year. It was really successful doing it that way. So we just took freshman field hockey out of the book, and so it's a minor one. And then concussions, we changed what we use this year, and it didn't make the handbook because we had a new training company. But we use an impact test, which is a computerized test, which works really well. So that's the main handbook. And then the athletic handbook, it's kind of similar to what Mr. Lucia was saying, where it's just, language changes that are just matching up. So the MIA handbook has language changes, we're just mirroring that. Same thing, anything that changes in the school handbook, I have to change in the athletic handbook to match up. Nothing really major. One of the big ones that we've found is when a student is removed from a team, usually it's academics. Sometimes the parents feel that they don't have to pay the user fees because of that. But it is in the handbook, it's just not really blatantly stated, so we really wanted to make that clear that, being on the team.
Do we not have a copy of this?
You should.
We have any of this.
Just that.
Oh. I apologize.
Okay.
I apologize
You have to
because
do a
I
little bit
must
better
have-
than that, my friend.
I must have overlooked it because I included the handbook
Chris
athletic
has an
changes,
extra one.
which is
Think
kind
they're
of an
just like
executive summary of what's
those
in
two
the
along with
athletic
them?
handbook.
So it's a it's 2 pages?
So if a student gets put on a team,
Yes.
and then because of the grades,
Academic and eligible.
right, is there usually is it a quick time frame that they could,
so-
say the first,
So
2 or
our
3
policy
games,
is
or-
we do refunds if a student does not play in the first game. So if they quit before that, or if they became academically ineligible, or there was a disciplinary issue, but once the roster is set, they're on the they're responsible for that because we do base our teams based off of the number of kids.
I think the answer to that question is it varies for each season, but on all 3 seasons, it's only in most fall sports it's over before report cards come out, except for football, and you're probably talking about maybe 2 or 3 weeks in the winter.
Yep.
So they're playing most of the season, and then really isn't a factor in the spring.
So nothing is checked though, when a child applies and then they,
Oh,
looking
then they have
at
to
them?
Yeah, they have to be eligible.
So at the time that they fill out
They're
the
eligible.
application to do
Yes.
it, we've confirmed that they're eligible.
Yes.
Yes.
And they wouldn't have been accepted
Right,
if.
so this, only,
Yes.
this usually happens at the end of a season.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we used to pay all the user fees up front, so we never
Yes.
really had this issue. And then when we allowed payments and spread it out,
Payment plan, yeah.
we ran into
Yeah,
it
to
a
help
little bit. So
families.
if they owed the last payment and the kid was academically ineligible, they felt like, well, we don't have to pay anymore. They
And what is our
technically took
recourse
us-
though to collect that money? Have we had issues?
I go over to the house. Knock on the door.
Certain privileges can be lost.
Yeah,
Well,
and
the
you
kids
can't
sign
can't
up
play
for the next
another. You
sport,
can't
you
play
know.
Okay, so you
the
do
next time
things to-
around.
That it's
You
not gonna,
can't.
if you don't pay your lunch money, you don't get your last report card.
Well, no, that's illegal.
That's illegal.
So what we do is.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we've told the kids though?
No, if you don't, say you owe, like,
It's
you
illegal.
can't, even if you didn't give me your books back,
Yeah.
I can't deny you books next year.
Okay.
So what we do is we don't let you borrow things until you pay up. So that would be like an athletic uniform. So if you owed books from last year, I have to give you books next year, but you can't wear the uniform. You can't borrow our uniform if you still owe us money.
Sure.
So we've been pretty successful with
Okay, that's
that.
good.
Yeah.
And if you stay on top of that, so
Sure.
it doesn't, you don't get into a situation where somebody digs a big hole.
Yeah.
Right. No, because I would just hate to see that payment, the payment plan go, because I know a
Yes.
Oh,
lot
very
of
hard,
parents appreciate that.
Yes.
So I would hate to see that go for just a few people that
Right.
feel that way.
Along those lines, we added in banquets, and this language was already in the handbook, but it wasn't in its own section. So I really wanted to make its own section. If a student is not an active member of a team, meaning they were removed for whatever reason, they're not eligible for the banquet. Along those lines, if they are out of school that day of the banquet, absent, sick, they shouldn't be coming to school to go to a banquet. And we've run into those situations where it's in the handbook, but it was, sort of in an obscure place. We just want to really have that language.
Yeah, it was general. It said you have to be in good standing with the team to attend the banquet. So obviously, if you're not eligible, you're not in good standing. But we did make it crystal clear now.
Good. Yep. Good. That's about it. And same co-op language from the other one is going into this handbook.
Excellent.
Good. Looks good. Any questions about it?
Moving crystal clear to everyone, right? Doing your best.
Crystal.
Okay.
I
have a brief there.
Not a crystal clear.
Do I not have a, I just,
Pam has a question.
regarding, back to the school nurse
Yep.
and heading injury protocol, head
Add to the
injury?
heading.
Oh, add to the
Injury
heading.
Protocol.
Yeah,
Okay.
the part about the
Is there a place that
nurse.
talks about concussions? 'Cause I
All
know
our
there's a lot of-
concussion policies dealt with our athletes.
Right.
So what we've been dealing with this year and last year were some people that they weren't athletes or they were not, didn't get concussions playing it with us. But it's important for the school to know that one of our students is dealing with a concussion and those kinds of things, so we can make the necessary accommodations.
Yes.
So that's why we want anybody that has a head injury to tell the nurse, so, we can.
We can develop a plan for academic recovery.
Yes.
And is that process going in the handbook?
No, that is so.
Like what a parent should do if their
Tell
child.
the nurse, that's
Tell the
what's in
nurse.
it, yeah,
And that
then.
will be in there? I mean, at least.
That's the part that's in there, and then we go, it's too
What happens with
individualized.
the student?
It's too individualized to write up a protocol.
Okay.
Well, and Pam, just to, not to jump in, but that's something the wellness committee
Yes.
is working on, developing a concussion policy.
Right.
So the past couple meetings, that was something that was,
Right, well, and I was a part of that, so I'm aware of that. But like, where would that policy go, if not into the handbook?
Well,
Is
we
that?
said we were doing one in the
I talked to
policies.
Mike Gilbert about it, because I
Okay.
think you asked me to,
Right.
like,
Yeah,
why
it's
is there not?
brought up.
So he said there aren't two policies, and he said they're not encouraging people to develop two policies. They're encouraging people to maybe make a notation in the policy, or add something to the title if you want. But he said, if you think about it, almost everything in that policy is applicable
Yes.
to any kind of a concussion you might get. Now, you can have a separate one, but he said MASC has no, at this point, no plans to create another policy. So a lot of times we use their policies and maybe adapt them for our own needs. So if it's being worked on at the wellness committee level, certainly we can look at it in governance. But I think, are you asking, Pam, like,
What happens
what,
now?
so what is the school's commitment to, or, what happens for the child? What services get provided by the child? And we always do that through whatever the doctor recommends.
Right, right. I just was wondering, for families to understand something of the process when their child has a head injury, is there something in the handbook regarding that, this student handbook?
So can I ask you, what would you, as a parent, what would you expect to see? Like, what would you be looking to see?
Maybe just that you should report the information with doctor's information to the nurse, and that, pending, if it's a concussion, if the effects of the concussion were to last more than a few days, that a team would be convened, something like that, of teachers,
So
of
what
the nurse, of.
Just so
the
Pam just
parents
asking about
understand
if you
that,
could add something about the
Right,
process.
A little bit about the
It's-
process of where you would go with that.
Well,
I
what
mean,
we want
I
the
know
parent
that's
to do is tell the nurse, and the nurse handles it from there.
Right, but what Pam's saying is there something that could be added that just says, once information is provided to the nurse, the school will use the information, the nurse will determine, based on the information provided by the physician, what accommodations would be required, and a plan would be put in place if it was required.
assistance team or
Wouldn't that
something.
apply, though, to any type of medical condition where you needed some type of an accommodation?
Yeah.
Or some
Yep.
It would.
special
Yep.
support?
It would, and it's so individual that,
Can't have
you
a
know,
blanket policy, right?
yeah, it's hard because,
Well-
and you know,
I mean, we're
one
just
of the
learning so much
things
about
that our lawyers
concussions
have
right
been
now.
telling us in many avenues is sometimes doctors are really overstating their bounds
Mm-hmm.
in telling us what we need from the medical community is this is what the person's capable of, but they're listing accommodations, and that's way out of their realm.
Right, because doctors don't
right.
work in schools
We're
and
the
they don't really
educators, and they're
understand.
right.
Yeah.
So, what we don't want is a list of all these things from the doctors. We want to know what the person's capable of and what the limitations are, and then we will make appropriate educational accommodations.
Okay, so maybe that's what you need to say,
In the
just
in the
that one
policy.
sentence, after information is received by the nurse, the school will make appropriate accommodations based on the information they receive. Done. Right, because
I will.
because I think what you're looking for, Pam, is something that assures the parent that you're just telling the nurse isn't where it stops, that something happens as a result of it. Somebody reviews it and
Based
something
on a
happens.
professional medical evaluation
Yeah.
of the child, because there are concussions that a child can recover from in 4 days, there are concussions that a child may
And
not
that's what we
recover
deal
from
with,
9
and
months or
so
a year.
sometimes
I mean, there's so much.
all kinds of things can happen. It can go from some
Variety.
basic kind of accommodations that we just notify the teachers with, or it might go into a case where we have to develop a 504 plan.
Right, right.
So,
Okay.
But
Okay,
it's so
that's-
interesting to me,
yeah,
like
what-
sometimes
just
what
a
will happen for like
sentence.
10
Exactly.
days. It's like, so the child can't read, write, watch a computer, or move for 10 days, but they're in school. So I'm trying to figure out like, so what is it that a student does
In school.
for 10
Sometimes
days?
they
I mean,
just observe.
they must have to observe and listen. I mean, I can see the value of some of that,
Yeah.
but it's really interesting to me that,
and everybody really reacts differently to it too. And
Oh,
it
yes.
probably has a lot to do with the
Yes.
severity of it.
Mhm.
And so it's really hard to
Very
come up with.
individualized.
Yeah,
the
so we
approach.
try to be, as flexible as possible.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and I think that'd be perfect.
Yeah, just a
That's
sentence or
excellent
something, just-
suggestion.
yep.
Yes,
Right.
good, thanks.
Okay, wonderful.
So we'll get back to you with that language.
Yeah. No, Barbie can prove it, with the suggested changes, because
Yeah.
Laura's got them noted. So then,
Yeah, we wanna know what you just said. Did
I
you write
wrote
that
it.
down?
Heidi
Oh, okay,
has
good.
it.
I
All
could
right.
probably think of it
School will
again.
appropriate accommodation, school will make appropriate accommodations for student needs.
Yeah, based on student needs and
Based
medical
on-
information.
And medical information, right.
Got it.
Got it. Are we good on this?
I think so. Okay. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the Georgetown Middle School, do I have to do the athletic book separate?
I would do
Yeah.
all three, yeah.
At once?
Well, I think in the past we have done them separately, but I don't think there's any problem with doing them all together, Barbie, whatever you're most comfortable with.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the Georgetown Middle School Student Parent Handbook as well as the athletic handbook for the 2014-2015 school year with the changes.
Recommended
that we-
revisions.
Yeah, with the recommended revisions as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, team.
For coming. Are you sure you don't wanna come like every?
I think it's a great idea. I really sit in the back for it.
You're always I thought you were gonna say you thought
Maybe
you'd
you
be
can,
ready
like,
for a
switch around,
rotation.
like he does
That's
one,
that's
you
what, yeah,
do
that's
one.
what,
Another idea.
that's what I thought he was lobbying for, a rotation. Thank you all for coming. Okay, so Julie,
I'm setting
Right.
this up for my
for Donna.
colleague.
Oh, I thought you were gonna hang with her up here, give her some moral support.
She needs that, I can do
Come on up, Donna. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
So since we're talking about the Walker evaluation, I thought I'd bring you an additional copy. I know you did. If you had some questions this evening.
You'll have Laura modify.
Okay, so you put these on the table? Is that what you
Yep.
have done?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, wonderful. So this one we're not looking at.
Right.
Get rid of that guy.
Get rid of that one.
Get rid of that guy. Okay. All right.
Gonna take a minute here.
Okay. All right, so primarily what I thought we could do for this evening is we could talk about some of the current programming. I provided you all with a copy of the programs book so that you can see the continuum of services and the specific types of programs we have in each of the levels. We'll take a look at what the special education disability data tells us about our students, where the primary focus is for instruction based on students' disability classifications. And we'll talk about the progress we have on the Walker Partnership Report, as well as where we're going for the future, and then talk about today and tomorrow our mid-cycle CPR work that I'm doing with DESI. So we can talk a little bit
What
about
does
that update.
CPR stand for?
Coordinated Program Review.
Okay.
So every 6 years, the State Department will come in and conduct a coordinated program review, take a look at what our policies, our procedures are. They'll do
extensive.
file review, very extensive.
They do document reviews, they interview parents, they interview staff, they go visit the programs, they're here for at least 3 days. It's a
And they do
very
that how
in-depth-
often?
Every 6 years, but then they give you a report, and if there's things that they consider a finding, they'll decide if something's partially implemented, fully implemented, or not
great.
implemented at all, and then you have to submit. So what Donna's talking about with the 2 days is they came back mid-cycle to make sure that in fact, what we said we were going to do is what we have done.
Oh, great. That's
Right,
great
so we
to
provide
make sure we're
evidence
on
of,
track. Yeah.
that we have indeed
And
done
they'll
what they've
interview
asked, and
people.
they
That's
conduct
great.
file reviews.
Oh, that's
and
great to know. I think
It's
it's
very
really
comprehensive.
Like JACO for a hospital, right?
But it's
Right.
good to share, I think,
Well, we
the
like those
findings.
external reviews because they do give us an opportunity to have a fresh set of eyes. you know.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
But it's extensive when I tell you that.
It
You see the
is.
report, the reports are like this thick. They look at every civil rights, they have civil rights standards, they have special education standards, they have ELL standards,
I
Title
think
I
that's
standards.
It's really, I think that's good information for the public to know.
Yes,
I would say.
absolutely.
That people need to know that Georgetown isn't just doing what we want.
No,
That
no,
there's
and
this oversight.
one of the
at
things
these
Donna and I
levels.
chatted about even today was that, and I think Pam brought it up at a previous meeting, obviously our website's a work in progress, and so the special ed page is definitely not developed where it needs to be. And Donna knows that, and that's a goal of hers. Barry's gonna help as well, but this is the kind of thing that you would post up there. You
I'm
can
so
post it in the
excited to
archives.
see this. I really, really
You know.
am. I have to tell you, thank you so much for putting this
the
together. This is what I've
archives.
been wanting to take a look at for a while, so.
Right, so Barry and I are gonna work on doing a whole student services page,
yeah.
where we're going to include not just special education, but we're gonna include things about homeschooling, about homelessness, all of those areas that any type of student service that you might need, whether it's a 504, information about that, the DCAP, the school improvement plan, all of those pieces. So that's,
Cause we
Some
have
big
all
work
those
we have to
plans,
do.
we just don't have a
We
vehicle
have it.
right now to.
Sharing it with the
It's
public.
not right. We just
Yeah.
need to share it
And
with
I
the
think that
public.
that's the,
It would make people a lot more
I think it'll make people
comfortable.
more comfortable.
Yes.
Mhm. So it's available, we'll just make it more virtually available now. And the same thing with the CPR report, you can
Well,
go
I-
on the DESI website to obtain it. So we'll just attach it
If
to
you-
ours.
Yeah, if you work in schools, you might know that, but if you are,
Yeah,
if your life isn't, if you don't understand really how education works, you just send your kid to school, there's things you wanna know about. I think there's a lot of assumptions made that people in any school district do what they wanna do what rather than that there's this,
Accountability.
oversight and accountability that people are attending to, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, and the websites are a great place to go to learn more about that.
Especially for information.
Yeah.
That's just
You
there.
just have to know which website to
I mean,
visit, so
people are
Yes.
wonderful to
Website
talk to
makes the
too,
most
I'm not, don't mean to
No,
diminish
I know.
that in any way,
I know.
but.
But sometimes people have wrong information.
Well,
Depending
that's
on who
true.
you talk to.
And sometimes,
Like,
yeah, if you want a
if you talk
broad
to your
picture,
neighbor,
you know,
you might
can-
learn something about Georgetown schools that isn't necessarily true.
Right,
And
we
they
try
can
to post
certainly
correct
call
information
any
up
of
on the
us and
website.
get
Correct
some
information.
Yeah, education is good. So good, so, we're gonna talk a little bit about program philosophy, and it's not really special education philosophy, because we all maintain the same position that we wanna keep our students here in Georgetown, and we know that we have the capacity to educate all of the students to, provide them a free and appropriate education. So what are we doing here to keep students in Georgetown? Well, some of the areas that we're working in are language-based programs. So we have a continuum of types of services in the language-based program. Some of those include team teaching, where we work directly with the Landmark Outreach organization, and they've come in and provided all kinds of extensive professional development to our paraprofessionals, to our general education teachers, content teachers in the middle and high school, as well as our special education teachers, and they're working on implementing those programs. We've put together a binder of information for teachers to utilize within their classrooms, and I know that myself and the other administrators, as we're walking through, were very pleased and impressed with the teachers' ability to present information in a language-based approach. So we have that from an inclusive setting, where they're in with the general education teachers, to some small programs. We're also developing our social emotional programs. Our primary focus has been right now at the middle high school level. That does tend to be the area where students often have school phobias, or their depression comes out, or anxiety, or whatever concerns they might have. So we're developing those. We're also looking at developing it next year at the elementary level. Learning skills program is primarily the focus of our inclusion. So students who have some difficulties or relative weaknesses, whether it's in reading, mathematics, writing, maybe their attention and focus, executive function skills, they would provide some services within the learning skills program. And then we have our PDD and autism programs, and again, that can be anywhere from being fully included with some supports to very specific sub-separate programming that we have for some students who have significant needs at that level. We have some mentally fragile programs. We have students who really have significant or multiple disabilities that really need some very specific sub-separate programs, and that varies across the board from student to student. The other area that's quite important is in regard to the transition opportunities. We have a legal obligation to keep our students until age of 22 years. These are the students that may have some very difficult cognitive impairments, that we need to provide some vocational training for them, some home living skills, they may need some hygiene skills, they need some job coaching. So we have different programming for those students depending on where they're at. And that may start as early as age 14 for those students too. We have a few students right now who actually go from building to building within the school district and help with recycling or different jobs that might need to be done. And they go with a paraprofessional. They do some training within the classroom, and so they're learning skills that they can take out in the community. Yeah, they're great. They come and pick up the recycles. They do. Recyclables. Yeah, they do. Yeah, and it's great for them. They've really learned a lot, and I know that the teachers and, even superintendent that have seen them over the last couple few years have noticed vast improvements in their
vast
ability to communicate,
And
to
they'll stop and
function.
say, what do you say to Mrs. Jacobs? And they'll say, hi, Mrs. Jacobs, they'll shake my hand. So they really help them with that whole conversation
Mhm.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're looking, we have an eye on where are they going after they
That's
leave
right.
Georgetown Public Schools, as we do with every student, but with these students as well. What is their life going to look like? How can we transition them into whatever is next for them?
And when I've talked to their parents, they're just so grateful for those opportunities that the kids have, because they see it as a transition to the next step.
Absolutely.
Then we provide a continuity of services, and what that means is looking at each of the different levels, beginning with our preschool students, age 3. What do we need to provide those students? What do those programs look like? As they move towards young elementary, what does that look like? Upper elementary, and so on. So we like to have a connection of tying those programs together. So there's a transition of services, a transition with their IEP. There's communication between all of the service providers so that we're ensuring an appropriate education for these students. And what are some of the supports that we have? Again, I talked a little bit about the professional development that we have through Landmark. We also work with Melmark for our students that are on the spectrum. They come in and provide some supports. We are also working with the Walker Partners, and they're coming in and doing some professional development with our paraprofessionals, whether it's in helping students with executive function and organization, classroom management techniques, students with behavioral techniques. We have one woman from Walker that's coming in and working with our social emotional program to ensure looking at, what are the strategies that we're using? Are they current best practices? Are they based on empirical research? Where are we going with this program? And it's really important to have those pieces connected to our programs because we want to ensure that we are using the latest research.
So when we brought them in, we didn't just have them do a report for us.
Mhm.
They're many of the things that were identified in the report, they're actually following us and working with us this year. So when Donna gets
you
to.
mean when you say things that were identified, areas of weaknesses
Yeah, like
in
there
our
were certain
program?
things that they said we said we wanted to work on, and they concurred that we weren't quite there.
Right.
So, what's happened is, like, for example, certain programs may have not been as well developed as they needed to be. So what they're doing is, as Donna's saying, they're coming in and providing some support to not only the development of those programs, but to the training of the people in those programs.
That's fabulous.
Right.
That's really fabulous.
And it really helps out. Another area that we've changed over, since I've been here is our teachers across the continuum. For example, all of our teachers who work with the students on the spectrum, they get together once a month and they work on scripts together. They work on behavior plans. They study what the latest action research might be in that specific area. We bring the representative from Melmark to come in and work with those people as well so that we ensure that whatever, strategies or programs or scripts that the students are using, what is our entrance and exit criteria for the programs, is really appropriate. Everyone understands it, and it's, based on the current research because, nobody is an expert in everything, so we want to tap those resources in the community.
And I'm sorry I don't know this, Donna, but how long have you been in the district?
2 years.
2 years.
Okay, that's,
Yeah.
good, great.
I know, it seems like a long time, huh?
Well, I've been on the school committee for 2 years, so you've always been here, right? So
I've always been here.
But the things that you're saying that are being implemented, I think, speak to what people have told me are gaps.
Yeah,
in
I
our
mean, we've been
program,
working on them
and
for a
so-
number of years, but just it takes a number of years to really get a program to fruition. And Donna's expertise has certainly been a huge help to us. But back when Dave Dempsey was here, we started to do a lot of our in-house programs, and we had I'd say we had the frameworks for some of them. Now we really, are able to really get in and identify, because we had Melmark and Landmark working with us early on in the process when we developed the Compass program and others. But now we're at the stage where now the real gaps are being filled.
That's really,
Yeah.
it's wonderful to know.
Yeah. And Donna just knows this work, so she
Right.
knows
Well,
how
and
to
I do
target
think,
the resources, yeah.
Having, I was excited to hear that somebody from outside, right, is gonna come and look at the special education program in Georgetown.
Yeah.
Cause I do think you can see, you can't see the forest for the trees, right?
It's
I mean,
very
and
it's very
that's common.
complicated.
So to have an outside organization, and I was just really curious, well, what did they say, what did they find? And
We have the report. You guys got it last year, but we were so new, maybe, I'm happy to forward you the report
I
again.
just provided an additional
No,
copy
yeah,
for
you
everybody.
Oh, you did?
But I
Okay.
think what was.
Oh, you did, thank you, Donna.
What didn't catch me was, I mean, now I'm much more, I guess, I'm hearing much more of the community concerns. And to hear that there were gaps identified and they're being addressed
Mhm.
Yeah.
is, that's the most you could hope for, right? Is that you would So that's one side of the level of concern, but I'm glad to know what's happening in this.
And we'll get in a little more detail when we get to some of the recommendations and where we stand in achieving what we need to based on those recommendations later in the presentation.
Okay, great, thank you.
And I'm sure you'll have some questions. Some of the other areas that we're looking at are staff as well, and we want to understand, you know, if the staff has specifically defined roles and if they're adhering to them and if we have all the staff we need. So for example, some of the specialists that we've brought in we have 2 BCBAs on staff now, which is fabulous because a BCBA is a real hot commodity.
Can you say what that is? What is
So, I'm sorry, a behavior consultant. So they work directly with the students on autism, so they do great scripting, applied behavior analysis programs, but they also serve as providing some assistance overall in the schools. So you have students who are maybe misbehaving in class or having difficulty attending, any number of areas that a behavior might be affecting it. We have some students who I heard you talking about tardy. Students who are habitually tardy, we will go into the home and work with the parents on that, provide training for the parents so that they can take those strategies to utilize with their children to help with getting to students on time. So any number of areas. They'll do the functional behavior assessment, create the behavior plans, train the teachers, train the paras, and again, train parents where it's necessary in how to help the students achieve success.
And they are a hot commodity, finding good BCBAs.
I've heard
They
that,
can write their
yes.
own ticket.
They
There's
can.
so much of a demand for them.
So for us to have
So
two
for us to
is-
have 2, and they're excellent. They're excellent.
Mhm.
Wow.
They're
They
excellent.
really are. Another wonderful addition has been the cognitive behavior therapist. She's a licensed therapist, and she's truly been instrumental in the development of our programs at the middle high school level, the social emotional programs. And along with the consultants from Walker, we're going to look at developing that in the elementary level at first. We chose the middle high school because, as I said, that tends to be where those types of behaviors start emitting, because it's the adolescence. If you look at it, you know, cognitively, that's when students, if they're going to have depression or anxiety or some kind of a breakdown, it's generally around 15, 16 years of age, that ballpark. So that's where we put our energies first.
And we plan for that in the facility at the new school. So there's a space for that.
Yeah.
There it is.
There you, There you go.
Okay, so I talked about what would the flow chart look like for our programming. So this gives you an idea of how things move along within the school district. So we start again with our 3 to 5 year olds, which is our pre-kindergarten program. So what we have is our pervasive developmental disability inclusion model. These students might get pulled out and receive some services from our BCBA or one of the very specific special education teachers, and then they're included within the general classroom so that they can generalize and apply those techniques that they've been learning with the aid and support of the specialists who work with them. If you follow that down through the elementary, we have the same thing at the elementary level. We continue that type of support into the middle school and into the high school.
So, are these students who might have an aide in their regular classroom with them? Or are they primarily being taken out of the regular classroom to receive services, and then it's just hoped that they're going to follow through when they get into their...
Well, we always have hope, and now we have another hope, but
I guess the
That's a
question is
more,
so-
that's a more specific disability. That's not just your learning disabled kid.
No, they do have some, they can have some associated learning disabilities with them with regard to reading, writing, math, all of those pieces. But their primary one is in socialization, communication, repetitive types of behaviors. So they have a different type of disability.
They have high level of support though, right, Donna?
They can have a high level of support, yes. And the goal is always, if you speak with anyone, having a one-on-one or having an aide follow you around is not a best practice at all. It tends to make the student too dependent on that adult so that they're not learning the skills that they need or, you know, generalizing those skills in other areas. So the idea is when you have support in there, if you have them in a sub-separate or a separate program, much of the time, then you're going to take that child into the classroom and work with them, but not hover over them. Or you might have somebody in the room with several other students who might need some similar supports.
That's why it's high level of support, but it's not necessarily a one-on-one.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, like, in cases, you know, that I've heard of, so there's a student in the class who's always disruptive and the teacher can't focus on the kids who are there to learn because the teacher's always having to spend time with this other child who can't seem to function like the other kids in the classroom.
Yeah,
There's always
they're all
trying
there to
have-
learn, but there's challenges, right?
This one, yeah, this one can't sit and is always disruptive or doesn't, you know, can't work in centers or like, so you hear that complaint and then you hear, and this teacher has no control over the class because there's this one or two difficult students, and so.
And we appreciate parents' concerns and we want to hear about parents' concerns and work with them. But on the other hand, what we're looking at is applying the best strategies and techniques to helping those students that have difficulties. And what are those strategies?
Sure.
And sometimes what's happening is there's a lot going on behind the scenes, like the BCBA behavior consultant is working with the teacher, with the student, with the family. Or, you know, any number of other different scenarios. So you have all of this work going on. And one thing that we always tell parents, or even, you know, the general education teacher that's in there working with a behavior plan, things are going to get worse before they get better. Because whenever you try and rein someone in or have them stop specific behaviors, they're going to rebel to that.
How then, just really curious, like how is the rest of the classroom, all the other students in the classroom, how are they helped to deal with this this child? Because it seems to me, so my daughter was in preschool, and there was a child who, she came home one day and she was so angry because he wasn't leaving her alone and this, that, and the other. When I went to talk to the teacher, and I felt like she got a solution that empowered her. Because she was able to complain about the other student's behavior and be heard and be told something that allowed her to maintain respect for that student, but also feel like her concerns were dealt with. And I just wonder, like, how, I was amazed. I remember thinking, like, wow, she was also, you know, one teacher, 10 kids. I mean, so the public schools here, it was a different situation, but I think I hear.
Well, it's not necessarily, though. I think that was a fabulous example of what could happen in that situation. So if you look at what's going on in students that may feel, you know, angry, they may feel upset, they may feel sad over whatever's happening with another child in the classroom, there's certainly many other people within the school that can provide some assistance, whether it's the adjustment counselor, the assistant principal, there might be principal, there's lots of different people
But I
that
think
can
like in some
engage.
cases, what I've seen is like the adjustment counselor will go in during morning meeting and will talk to the kids about, you know, how can we all be part of this community, you know, so I think there's through the responsive classroom, there's a real effort. Now, that's not something every parent might know is happening. Do you know what I mean? Because some of that stuff, as Donna said, happens behind the scenes. And, you know, it's just always tricky because there's certain things you want to be able to reassure parents about, but there's the whole confidentiality situation. And I know, like, when I've had conversations with parents, and I really appreciate, we hear their concerns, and I really appreciate where they're coming from, but sometimes it's hard for them because they're so emotional to take another point of view. So, like, for example, you know, sometimes parents might, just give you an example, some people might say, well, why don't you email all the parents and tell them, you know, what's being done, and how, you know, that this kid's being punished, or, well, okay, so then I usually will say, well, let's say it's your kid. So can you just take it for a minute, let's pretend it's your child. Are you still gonna advise me that that's what you would like to see done? And they usually say, no, no, because I wouldn't be comfortable with you talking about my child's needs and concerns with other people. And, you know, that's kind of my business. and that's kind of where we are. So it's a delicate balance between how much information can you give people so that they, they feel comfortable that you're addressing it, right? And that their child is safe in class and not overstepping that and creating a situation where now you have parents coming and saying, you're not, you've targeted my child, you've it's inappropriate. So it is a delicate dance, and I think that, Margaret, I know you run into that, oftentimes, and, sometimes people will talk at Dunkin' Donuts, right? So sometimes they don't have all the information, they have some information, and of course, we all listen to our children, of course we do, that our children count on us to listen to them. But we have to also realize that, sometimes their perspective is their perspective, and it may not represent all of the whole thing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, but we want parents to talk to us. I don't want ever for people to say, oh, well, the school won't listen. No, we will listen. But,
Carol, I will
Yeah.
jump in
Yep.
just to say that, just as Donna said earlier, we have so many amazing professional people throughout the district. So I know at Pearlie, I have called upon the cognitive therapist at the high school to come and consult because, she works in the district. So again, it comes to parents in a class may hear from their child something that's going on, but no teacher that I know of and no principal that I know of isn't doing something about it.
Right.
So that we're using all the resources, we're doing things, and then that change happens, and it's usually pretty seamless because children they're not going to see the meetings, they're not going to see the behavior plans, they're not going to see the telephone calls.
And it takes time to change the behavior.
The therapists, but they'll see eventually that change in the room.
Absolutely.
So, and as Carol said, if parents are understanding, they just want what's best for their child, but they also understand that every parent wants what's best for their child.
Right.
So,
And, some of our work has to do also with building resiliency in our children too. We have to give them that opportunity to vent and to talk about, but that's what the whole spirit of the responsive classroom is supposed to be about, that, when something's happening in our community, we're talking about it. We're trying to figure out how do we work together on this. And some kids, when that's done, they learn to develop a little more empathy for maybe what another child might be going through,
There's a fine line between developing empathy.
Yes.
And feeling silenced. Like
Yes.
I have to put up with this because
Yes.
because I have to put up with it. And
Yes.
so I think that there's just
Yes. And some of it is stylistically, different in some places, but it is something that, we're constantly working on and talking about it. Teachers I know are always thinking about it because, they want every child in their classroom to be able to succeed.
Absolutely.
And they are challenged sometimes, by some of the behavior of some of the students, and that's part of why we're always providing professional development and support at the teacher level. We're talking about the 3-tiered, interventions that we're putting in place. Well, sometimes and we have student assistance teams throughout the district where if a student's struggling, there's an opportunity to get support from colleagues on other ideas that could be tried. But it is hard, I know, for the public because they don't know all this stuff is going on. That's why this is a good discussion to be having, because as Margaret said and Donna, there are a number of resources that we're very grateful to have because and amazing work. Like there was a couple situations earlier in the year. I'm not hearing about those now because I think what's happened is all of the interventions that have been put in place, the support has been there and the children are making the progress we're hoping, right? Our goal is to create independence in all learners, and doesn't follow the same path for everybody.
Right, absolutely.
And it's truly a hugely collaborative effort. So you'll find sitting around the table, the principal, myself, special ed teacher, general ed teachers, adjustment, we're all sitting there having the conversations about that student and pulling from each of our own knowledge banks, like what can we do, what can we help, where do we need to go next? So it's constant communication, constant collaboration, providing assistance, even understanding if there's a child in there who doesn't have any specific needs but is impacted by maybe the emotional behaviors of another student. Well, understanding that that other child may be highly sensitive to noise or whatever it is, working with that child then and having the ability to recognize that and pull that child out and provide some assistance. And then, as Carol was saying, that you become resilient.
Yeah, I think for an individual, it's so hard to imagine the many things that are going on. But I think a public conversation like this one we're having, where we articulate all these things so that the public can be aware and feel reassured. It's useful. I appreciate this. This is great. I'm sorry to keep interrupting. But
No, that's fine. I want to answer your questions. Feel free. So again, and you can kind of take a look at this yourself, but you can see that there's programs that go throughout the schools that deal with the different emotions. So if you look at the emotional inclusion piece, so right now at the elementary level and the pre-kindergarten level, we do have students that have some emotional concerns. Oftentimes it's caused by post-traumatic stress at this age. So to the best of their ability, we keep them in the classroom and we work with them through the adjustment counselor, lunch bunch, putting supports in the classroom as they need it. As they move towards the middle and high school, as I said, developmentally, more can happen, more can, break out for these students. So when I say we have flexible options, what we have is specific programs where students might start their day in that program, where they're having a personal development class, learning social skills, and then the rest of the day nobody sees them in that program. They're in the class and they're utilizing those techniques. Or to the point where you might have a student who is in such a situation that they're in that program all day. They're receiving their instruction in there, their content area, everything they need is in that program, with the goal of getting them back integrated into the inclusion setting, and then anything in between. The language base, again, we talked about. We have small group classes of 5 students who meet a very specific entrance criteria. We have go-talk classes where both the general ed and the special ed teachers are skilled in language-based learning techniques. And we talked about the medically fragile. So those are some of the programs that we have, the vocational and life skills. It's not just for those students that we talked about that might have some cognitive impairments, but also we look at students who are not interested in going to college, who need something else, and we look at providing some maybe work opportunities or, school to work. And Peter has these programs himself. You don't have to be special education either. So it's something you work directly with the students' needs.
And this plan that Donna's laying out is a conscious philosophical plan, because years ago, before we had any programs at the middle high school other than the alternative program, we had our autism spectrum program at the elementary school, but the reality is that when those kids were getting ready to go to the middle school, there wasn't an option for them. So we created the Compass program. And then as we've been able to, we wanted to bring some students back. You can't bring students back into the district if you don't have a working, viable program. So that's where over the years we've developed that. So because I never forget it, I sat in the room with the administrators and we put the schools at the top and we put the kind of disabilities like Donna's got right here, this exact graph, and where there were gaps all over the place. So we provided some services, some through inclusion, some through some pullout, but there were major gaps, and we made a conscious decision to create continuums so that you didn't have students who had a really good viable program at the elementary level and then the only option for them when they went to the middle school was to go out of district. And then we'd have a high school alternative program so they could come back. Well, it's very, it wasn't working.
In creating these continuums, was that done by bringing in specialized faculty or by choosing faculty that we already had in the district?
Combination of both. Combination of both. We looked at where were our children going, like who has the information on the autism spectrum world. Well, Melmark does. Okay, great. So we don't want to just create a program. We want to create a program that's going to be consistent with best practices and who they're already doing it. So why wouldn't we want to learn from them? So we did that. We did, as Donna said, we did train some of our own in-house people. We switched out some positions to add some positions that we thought were really important. When we brought certain students back, we changed that and made sure we had the appropriate staffing. So in other words, that helped us build the program.
Sure.
You know, so it's been done in a very deliberate, I think, quite creative way, because, you know, we now have programs we did not have. And the most, you know, people will say sometimes, well, it's to save money. I'm not gonna lie. To save money was a goal. It wasn't the most important goal. What was the most important goal was to fill in these gaps for these students who live in this community and to keep them in the community with their peers.
Yeah.
To provide those high quality programs for them, because we don't necessarily think it's good for kids to be going an hour and a half on a bus all day,
Sure.
working, you know, in environments that, you know, they can't maintain those peer relationships.
Right.
When we have to, when it's right and best for kids, we suggest it and we are happy. But if we can provide it in-house, we always wanna try that first.
Absolutely. We're also looking at developing, we've gathered some data on what skills do the teachers have. For example, who's trained in a Wilson reading program or a LIPS reading program, who's explicitly gone and had PD or workshops in language-based strategies, and looking at putting together a 3 to 5 year plan of professional development so that we have people who are trained at all levels in those
Cross-trained.
very specific areas, and lots of cross-training as well, so that if your child is receiving Wilson or LIPS at the elementary level, and that's something they need to continue at the middle school, they can continue it because we've trained those people and they're available. So we're looking at overall, what are the trainings, what are the specific teachers, even within special education, when you say, oh, a special education teacher, well, we don't all receive the same certification. Within there's mild, moderate, severe, you know, we talked about the BCBA, so there's lots of different areas where you can specialize. So we did analysis, who do we have on staff? Who do we need on staff? And as Carol told you already, we had to look at that and make some tough choices, you know? Too many of this, we need some of that. So that had to be done. So this just kind of gives you a little bit of a snapshot as to where the staff fall with regard to special education. So you can see we have the one therapist and psychologist that work across the district. We have a variety of different teachers. We have more paraprofessionals down where the kids are younger, because they have a greater need there, because that's where you're really hitting them hard with services, giving them a lot of services and really trying to, you know, teach those students so that as they move on, they become more and more independent. And this gives you an idea of when you think about students who have an individual education plan or have an educational disability, well, what does that really mean? Well, these are the very specific categories that somebody might have a disability. And so as you can see with autism, we have 20 students in the district who are autistic, and that's across from age 3 right up to, you know, high school age. So we really need to meet all of those students' needs. Communication, that's a very high number. Students who might have receptive, expressive, those students fall into the language-based category as well. So we have our speech and language pathologists working directly in those programs with the general ed teachers to provide the services that those students need. The other two top categories would be health, and that might include your students with ADHD, attention deficit disorder. They would be categorized under the health. And then specific learning disabilities at 71 students, and that would be our highest area. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so then there was the Walker report. So they came in, and you might remember Dr. Jim Early came and presented, you know, all of his information, which was fabulous to receive that information. So we kind of took a look at it and said, okay, let's prioritize what we're going to tackle. You know, we have a number of recommendations here. What can we do? So here is a list of basically what we've looked at. So the first thing was to say we needed to have a group of people sitting together who are going to analyze the report and kind of decide where to move forward. So we've put that committee together. The language-based program is another area where we really wanted to refine it. So we looked at where we specifically, again, needed those trainings. Did we need co-teaching? Did we need small groups? Where do we need to work on that? So we've done all of that. We've put a lot of that in place. It's not to say we're going to stop, we're done. We're not. We're going to keep moving forward, keep training, keep evaluating. The 18 to 20-year-old, we talked a little bit about that. So we have those students who are now approaching that age group, so we want to ensure that we're putting a program in place for them. And the other piece that we're doing is putting a transition committee together so that we're looking out and working with other school districts, working with the community colleges, so that we can team with them for our students and provide better services. One example is with a local area district, we're taking our students to the Y. So they're getting on a bus, going to the Y, learning how to become active within their community. How do they access those? Getting the ring and ride, going to the grocery store, those types of activities. The response to intervention, we talked a little bit about that at the last meeting. So Massachusetts has their tiered system of services that they would like us to put in place. We have a district level RTI committee. Myself, Margaret Marr, principal, and Julie DeRoche, the director of curriculum instruction, are really the facilitators of that committee, and we're working with people across the district from all the schools, general education, special education, to really take a look at what does the student assistance team look like, what is it going to look like district-wide, what do we have in place for the social curriculum. We need to look at that, put something more specific that goes across the district in place. So we have a lot of work going on in that area. One thing that we did hear from people, parents in particular, was they did not know who to contact for what. And I think part of that, and we addressed that a little bit, was in regard to some of the turnover that had occurred. So we've put together a list of who to contact. We make sure that the teachers are sending out letters. We hold different forums for parents to come in so that they know who to communicate with. We've developed a program book. I believe I gave you a copy of that for the evening. And within that, we did a lot of studying of research, talking about the different programs. You know, we want to keep these programs very pure. So in order to do that, you really have to establish an entrance criteria. What does that student look like that belongs in this program? And we look at things like, what is their IQ? Within their IQ, what are the different subtests, you know, and so on, all the different areas that you might want to get entrance into that program. And believe me, people will come to us sometimes and say, can you put so-and-so in this program? Or would you put my child in this program? No, we can't, because we want to keep it pure. And then we have an exit criteria as well. So if your student has achieved the following, they're ready for the next step. So that's, you know, an area where when you sit down at the table and you're developing an IEP and looking at a student's assessments and their skill level, that's how we understand where students need to go and where they need to be placed. And that's going to be a continual process as well.
And I think sometimes people think that special ed is the only way that a child can get help. And that's a big focus of why the RTI is so important.
Yeah.
Because it is not about, you know, you have to get your child on a special ed plan in order to get your child help. That can't be our strategy. So that's, in that right now, I think that is kind of prevalent. So that's where Donna gets the pushback. When people say, no, they don't meet the criteria, then the next question is, but my child still needs help. That's where that gap is that parents get, I think, frustrated by.
Right. And, you know, we understand that, and we're all working together to solve that problem and work with parents. The other area is just designing a district-wide manual so everyone has an understanding of what the same terminology is, what is a process or procedure for, you know, fill in the blank, whatever we need to do.
That's great.
So
that's important.
Absolutely. We want everything to, you know, work together. So again, that transition piece from grade to grade, from school to school. We've worked on
Can I just,
defining.
I'm
Sure.
sorry to interrupt there with the district-wide manual. So how does a staff person access that or get that? Does everyone have a copy, or?
We do. I have, we've distributed copies to some people, but not everyone, because it's the kind of thing that I don't want to just hand it to people.
it's this thing.
Right,
I want to
know.
explain it, right. So we want to do a little workshop or something like that. So that's in the process of, and it's best to do something like that in smaller groups.
Okay.
So that's something we achieved just this year, recently, so we're going through it systematically to present that to people. Because, we know if you're not in special education, you don't always understand the terminology.
Right.
Even when we sit there and we're talking about standardized assessments and we're breaking a student's IQ down into different areas, not everybody understands that, and we know that. Most people don't understand that, actually. So this is helpful to say, okay, if they have a lower processing speed,
What does
what
that
does that
mean?
really mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean to me as a classroom teacher?
Yeah, what do you do? What can I do about it?
Exactly. So we've redefined the roles and responsibilities to distinguish tutors, paraprofessionals, and aides.
We did that as part of negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
We did job descriptions for those.
We talked about the PD. Again, we're looking at revising and updating the roles and responsibilities for the special education teachers, because again, we're not looking at having just general special education teachers. We're looking at very specific roles and tasks and ensuring we have, solid staff there. And then revising the special education procedure manual. So that is almost complete. I have a few new things that need to be added to that based on, some laws that have come down recently.
Is that something that also would be, it seems to me that at any moment a student could enter the district who has a need that we haven't had to, we've never encountered before? Is that possible? And then does that?
It's always possible. It's not
always
generally
possible.
probable, because we have these programs, so we sort of see a lot of students who fit, but everybody's unique, so
Right,
it
and
could
it's a
happen.
small district,
Yeah,
so
it could,
it's
it could happen that there's a combination of
Yeah,
things that
a
we haven't
perfect
seen.
example is who came to visit us first this evening.
Yes, Jenya.
Jenny. So she is unique. We
Yes.
don't have too many students who come in and have those types of needs. I don't care what size your district is, you don't have that. So she has required a lot of specialized instruction, a lot of assistance from outside agencies, and I just want to say that Eileen Lee, who's the SPED coordinator at the secondary level, has really been phenomenal in reaching out to the community and finding different organizations that can provide some assistance for her. So that might be an example of somebody who has some really unique challenges that we need to address. So it's just a matter of digging in and figuring out where to go, who to go, and what does that child need.
We've done things like for children, they're phobic at, can't come to school for a period of time, we've Skyped their lessons. There's a variety of kinds of accommodations and modifications you can do, with the goal always of being to create a transition for students back into, the environment in which they're gonna spend their life,
So then, what are we doing next? Because obviously we couldn't get everything done in the first year or so. So we're gonna continue to explore additional collaborative opportunities out in the community. As you know, we tuition some students in from other communities into our programs because they're pretty awesome programs. So we're looking at doing some more of that. Margaret Maher and I are working on an extended summer school program for our students who have some significant needs, and I'll be sending out to the other communities, if they have students that they would like to send to us, as well as just, again, working collaboratively like the transition program. We're going to look at forming intake review teams for the substantially separate programs, and what that means is, again, really making sure we have some gatekeepers there so people really have a true understanding of who needs to be in that program, and so that it stays, true to those students. We want to develop a district-wide pre-referral process, and we're looking at that within the RTI process. So that's going to be a layer of the RTI process, so that it's similar. What data are we collecting? What types of things are we looking for specifically for the different areas of concern with students? Develop a plan for the ongoing evaluation of the SPED programs. So what we're going to do is look at every couple of years, bring Walker or somebody back in who can do an evaluation of where we are, what do we need, do we have holes now, you know, that type of area. We're looking again under RTI, but across the district to implement a positive behavioral intervention support system. That's also included looking at a social emotional curriculum district-wide and tying all of those pieces together. And some of that will help to sort of address some of the concerns that you discussed when, you know, how do you handle when you have a child behaving in such a manner? What happens with the other students? Well, when it's implemented, you know, in the curriculum that way, not that we're not doing those things now, but we're looking at doing something district-wide. Would like to look at doing more family-school partnerships, maybe doing some workshops with families, bringing in more outside people, improving our CPAC opportunities, getting people into CPAC. I know Pam and I would love to do that.
That would be awesome, yes. I mean, I think it's very, very helpful for parents to talk with each other, reach out to each
Absolutely.
other, share
Definitely is, yeah.
what's working for them and
What
they've found, what they've learned along the way, because every special education parent goes through a lot of learning as time
They do.
moves forward.
And it's nice to know that you're not alone.
Exactly, yes.
We're, as I said, we're going to
Learn
look at
from each other.
exactly the social emotional program at the elementary level, and again, just, you know, continuing to work on efforts to ensure that we keep students in the district.
It's great.
So we started talking a little bit about the coordinated program review, the mid-cycle. So effectively what that is looking at the areas of special education, the civil rights, English language learners, and seeing if all of our processes are in place, are we adhering to the law, are we providing, you know, whatever we need to do for those students. So that mid-cycle review is generally the third year of a 6-year cycle. And we're looking at some of the areas that we had partially implemented in our last one. And at the end of today, things are going very well. He was very pleased with what's been happening and the information we provided him. He's gone through multiple student files, and he had a lot of, he was very pleased. Again, I just want to give a shout out to Eileen Lee with a lot of like procedures and some of what she's had in place for the students. So the self-assessment was done. We had to initially do a self-assessment of our information, and that was done in the fall. We uploaded that to the state so that they could take a look at what they had ahead of time, and now they're doing a really more inclusive one. And I think in 2 years, Carol, is
Yeah,
it
because
that
they
we have
gave
the
us an
next
extra
one?
year because we
Yeah.
were making a transition to a new director.
Oh, sure.
So they've been willing to work with us, you know.
Yeah,
and
they really
said,
have.
no, it doesn't make sense, you know, let the person come in, you know,
Sure.
get acclimated, and then we'll come. So Donna and her staff did a great job getting ready. You know, it's not surprising to me that it's going well.
Any questions on anything else?
Do you
That
have
was a lot of information, I
It's a
know.
lot. Oh, it's
I just have
terrific.
one- Thank you.
So here's something I hear from time to time, you know, that, from parents. Oh, I don't even bother getting services from the school, I just take my child to and outside. Yeah.
Like hearing or speech and language or something.
Or something, you know, and my child needs some support and I'm just gonna go get it here. Or maybe they started when the child was younger and they have a great relationship or something. I just wonder if you have a sense of how many people in the district might be doing that?
I don't know that I could say how many people might be doing that. I know that, you know, people do that. They may seek out, you know, if they need, let's say, family therapy, they may have a family therapist who works individually with the child as well as the family, or they may have been working, as you said, with a speech and language person for a number of years, and although they're receiving services within the school district, they want to maintain that relationship. What we like to do in that case, you know, if the family is willing to share that information with us, that they have these outside services going on, we will ask for a release so that our practitioner and the practitioner they're going to can talk. So we have, our practitioners will sometimes go to an appointment of a child at another, say, speech and language person, observe what that person is doing and then collaborate on what the effort is so that they have a similar approach, because you don't want to have two things happening and just confusing the child.
Yeah,
So we really
absolutely.
look as
Okay.
much as possible working together with their family. We can't do it if we don't know what's happening outside, though.
Right, right.
So-
It's very interesting. I mean, that's a, yeah, it's an interesting dilemma
It is.
Well, I thank you for this, and I do not remember. Did you say it was Jim Early?
Jim Early
Came in? I don't, did I miss that meeting? Was I here?
I'm not
Does
sure.
anybody remember?
I think
He
Alana
came-
was on.
I don't
Was
think
on
I was
Chicken
here. I
Wing.
have
thought he
no
came in May.
recollection.
No, it was.
I was here. No.
I think he came in May.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
I
Alana
remember
might
when
not
he
have been able to be here.
It could have been a meeting I had to miss. I had a lot going on in the
You would
past
have
year, and I
remembered him,
know
I
I
think.
missed
I think you would have
meetings.
remembered Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I know, cause I remember hearing we were having this outside evaluation, and I like, well, I'm not hearing about it this time, and we're not hearing.
Well,
And
that, when you
thinking,
asked that
so-
question, I thought, oh, I wonder if she didn't get the report, and then, so that could have very well
Yeah,
been the
I think
case.
I might have missed
So that's
it,
why I
but-
wanna make
but
sure you
this
got
is-
it.
Thank you for bringing this, and this was very useful.
Yes,
Good.
thank you, Donna, it was great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys can all. The rest of the stuff is just other business, so, thanks again, Donna.
Yes.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you. Very
If
exciting.
you have other questions, just let me know.
Okay, thanks. Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming out.
Okay. So where are we here? We're down to subcommittee reports. Which has there been any subcommittee meetings?
Since the last meeting.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Well, I went to a school building committee
Oh, how did
yeah.
that go? Did you
meeting
got sworn in?
on
From the Board of
5/13.
Selectmen?
I have not gotten sworn in,
Yeah,
no.
she needs to get
She
sworn in.
gets sworn in by the town clerk. Did you go to talk to the town clerk?
No,
Yeah. You need to
nobody
go
said
talk to
I
the
need to
town
do
clerk.
that, don't I? It's
Yes.
okay, because that Monday, I could not have been, I didn't vote, but I did go to the meeting.
Okay.
And we haven't had a meeting since, so it's fine.
Was there
I'll just
discussion
go.
at that meeting of the playground, of what's happening?
Yes, you want me to share?
Yes,
What's up, the playground?
You would, well, the playground, I mean, when you talk about the fields at
The
Pembroke,
field
is
at
that what
Pembroke,
you,
yeah,
you know?
the fields, yeah.
Yes, I mean, a little bit, not a lot, not extensive. You know, the first, they open the meeting for the middle high school, and then they close that, and then they open a meeting for the Pembroke.
Okay.
So the first meeting with the middle high school, let's see. The main thing that I was curious about is the projected calendar. Oh, and I mean, obviously, we're so grateful that the town did approve at the ballot the renovations for the middle high school, so that's a huge thing.
Yeah, they were just
and
really
it's-
congratulating.
It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
sure.
I mean, well, it's very generous of the
Oh,
town
it's
and the voters,
very
because I know
generous.
they've been stretched
They have
thin
been
over the
stretched,
past few
yeah.
years, so,
Incredibly.
you know, but just for them to be able to understand that this is, it's the bare bones, it's value engineered, you know, it's just really what MSBA and NEASC has required, and it's fixing the roof, and it's fixing the drainage, and I know you all know this, but, in any case, so. The calendar on that, the design development is going to start in June. In October of this year, 60% of the design will be complete. October through December, permitting, apps, regulatory approval meetings. The construction documents will be 90% done, let's see. Yeah, by February of 2015. The bids will come in February, March of 2015. March to April 2015, general contractor bid period. And then construction is supposed to start in April of 2015.
Lasting.
Lasting substantial completion by December of 2015. Okay, so a lot done during the summer, including the roof, because the roof includes all kinds of fumes and all, you know, there's just a lot
How does
that,
this impact the students?
I mean,
We have to plan all that out, but they'll do, if they're continuing to work in the building or around the building, they'll do it in the least impactful way.
Hmm.
You know, they will. But this schedule was the first time we had seen a
I
schedule.
mean,
so-
could this require, like, children, like, on-site,
relocation?
Or just bringing in, like, the trailer classrooms and stuff like that?
That's not part of the plan, cause
Okay.
that would have been part of the cost
Okay,
and all
sure.
of that, it was not phased that way.
Okay.
So, again, like Pam's just going over the general, tentative outline, but what isn't in that yet is what is gonna be done
Sure.
you know, like when it's,
From
we start to
April to
construct
December.
it,
Right,
what's
there's a
gonna
lot
be
to be
done
determined,
when.
a lot.
Cause there
This
may
is
be
just
some
a-
stuff that even could be done before, you know,
Sure.
but there, obviously the goal is that
Less
we wanna
impact.
be able to move, relocate the students into the renovated spaces, you know, as early as we can in the fall of 2015.
Right.
Wow.
So, and a lot of the work will be done over the summer, and,
We
right,
have
so
to- we have to
the
move the
sixth
kids
graders
out
will
before they
be,
do a lot of the work.
right, so that's what's gonna take place in
that's
the fall of 2015. And then final completion is March of 2016, and June of 2016 is closeout. Goodbye, we're done, they're done.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Punch list complete, I'm sure. So that was it for the middle high school. Then for the Pembroke project, Carol, you had a question about when would we be able to tour the
Yes, I did.
beautiful new
Yes, I
structure
did.
here?
They've got stairs in there now, and, you know, or the stairs going up all 3 floors. And they're starting to put the walls in. I mean, if you have a chance to just drive up by there, it's unbelievable how quickly, I mean, they're still a few months ahead
It's
of
so
schedule.
exciting just driving up there,
Right.
you know, every morning.
It's gonna be, and they're, you know, I should bring them and show you, but they're taking pictures of it, and, you know, so when you look at, like, for example, if you stand right now in the library, with what's gonna be the library, and you take a picture out and you see what the people are gonna see, it's just breathtaking.
Really?
Same thing when you look, like, at the end of the corridor, it's glass, and just it is a school in the woods. It is a school in the
It truly
woods.
is, it's gonna be beautiful.
It's gonna be beautiful, right, and as you mentioned, progress is ahead of schedule and on budget.
Mhm.
And it's good to be ahead of schedule because then you have more time for punch lists. And if I recall from building a house many years
It
ago,
helps you move.
the punch
It
lists
helps
are really
It helps you with
important.
moving time.
Yes, yes.
You know, you can move things at a more leisurely pace, so to speak.
And regarding the fields, DRA, the architects, and Brait are continuing their discussions regarding the scope. And we have to make decisions about seed and water versus
Yeah, that will come to you.
sod, right, and that will come to us, and because we're trying to get playable fields out there for the kids as soon as possible within budget.
Yes, the
Pembroke
bottom
is
line is,
really
the bottom line is,
Oh,
I'm
I'm sure it is, I have
at
no
this
doubt.
point, cause I talked about it that night, and then I went to the trailer meeting with all the people, because I wanted to make the point myself. I know the point was made, and I know people heard it, but I thought it would be helpful for the contractor to hear it from me. Why it is important that they, A, make a decision as soon as possible on what it's gonna cost, because until they resolve that, they can't move forward with the documents designing it, which pushes the amount of time that it's gonna
Right,
take to get
right.
these fields out. The thinking they're doing right now potentially is that in the summertime, where the current playground is, there's gonna be a new septic system. That's where they're putting the new septic system. So, and then they're gonna put the 2 new fields, and then the end field where all the dirt is piled now, it will not be restored to a formal field. It'll be a place where it can be used, but it won't be a formally designed field. They're talking about starting the process of those fields this summer. But you cannot go on them for a full year.
Yeah.
And then it often takes another year for them to really be, I said it is completely unacceptable for students to have to play on the blacktop
Right.
for 2 years. It's completely unacceptable for 1 more year. Now, we could certainly use the blacktop area if we needed to for certain kinds of games. But one of the things that they're discussing, and they're crossing it out and will come to you ultimately, is perhaps when they do that septic system, that they could create an area where they'd sod it. put sod down, but you have to do an irrigation system when you do that too, because otherwise the sod will die. But, you know, to be, at least be able to sod an area large enough for students to be able to play on grass. And then, you know, if they can't end up, I don't know how big that spot could be, cause as you know, sod's expensive. That's why we don't have final details on any of that yet. But if they could sod that area and they still could use the blacktop and the playground back there, and then still have the opportunity maybe to use the drive for
Right.
some specific kind of games, and I think we'd all be very happy.
Right.
Um,
Doesn't have
you
to be
know,
what it was, but
It doesn't
needs
have to be what it was, but it can't be what it is. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. So I think people are hearing that, and the building committee's been very supportive of that. It's really just at this point, once the discussion gets finished up about, you know, what's the budget, what does it look like can be done there, then we can come before you with a plan.
Great.
So that's it. Yeah, the committee's very happy to have Pam.
We're very happy to
As
be
you know,
on it.
Pam participates fully in any
Yes,
committee
we know.
she's on, so, you know.
So you just need to get sworn in.
Yes,
Right,
but
Monday.
make sure you do that, cause you can't vote on anything till you
Right.
get sworn in.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. Welcome.
Okay.
And then you just have the Gale bill.
I have, what about the approval of the proposal? That's in the orange notes.
I guess I better read what I wrote. It's in here. Approval of the
Talks about
Gale,
it.
oh, I think I might, okay, let me just, yes, I think that's what was put on your table. What is that?
This
What is
B-
that?
B-
What is,
Well,
what
this
is
is
that?
just this
Oh.
is the invoice that we got last night.
Okay, so just let me think, yeah, that's the one, that's the new one, so let me just think for a minute. If you remember when John came and, who else came,
Old
Peter
business, but
Durkee.
it's saying that there's a motion to approve it.
Yes, but let me just explain this for a minute. So part of why you handed it to John and said, John, let Stack review this and then it can come back. It was the $6,800,
Yes, I
remember?
Yes.
For the, for the services. So, what I'm not remembering, because we had a Stack meeting last night, that bill there, which is for the peer reviewer, for the one where they had the wetlands lady came and did a peer review.
And Lindsay walked around
That
with
one you would need to approve, and the Stack committee recommends you approve it.
Okay.
The $6,800, remember, was for services rendered
Right.
by Gail
Yes.
already. And so Stack was gonna look at it last night. There was a question, and John researched it today, so I think we're gonna have to table that.
Okay.
Because my recollection was that what happened at that meeting, cause I asked Lindsay, is this for services you've already rendered? And is it part of the budget that you've proposed? Cause I thought I heard her say, anything after this is
Right.
gonna be at, per hour.
Right, I thought, I heard that
The
too.
discussion last night, people were not hearing that same thing. They thought what they heard was, the $6,800 is not in the budget, right? So their concern was, where are we going to get the money, because they don't wanna see anything else taken out of the budget.
Right.
I tried to reassure them that's not, I don't think what was heard, but I said to John, do me a favor and talk to Lindsay. So he texted me today and he said, that is part of the budget, they had $7,200 in the budget earmarked, and the total was 68, sorry, 68. So at the next meeting, I will make sure we bring that forward so you can approve it, so they can get paid.
Okay.
Cause I'm concerned about them not getting paid. They did render the services.
So at the meeting last night, because I left early.
Yes,
Did you set up another meeting date or no?
we didn't.
Okay, so we'll have to
We'll have
get
to
that
set
out.
that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we definitely want, I mean, I think there was, the discussion led me to believe that there's general agreement from the Stack Committee that if in fact that was for services rendered, we would need to pay it.
Yes.
They just wanted to know whether it was gonna result in another 6,800, and then the other thing I asked him to do, which John got me today, was, how much more time does Lindsay anticipate that would come out of the project?
Yeah.
That isn't part of the $7,200, and she said 4 additional meetings, so it's $120 an hour, right? So, you know, I figured if you, had a 2-hour meeting 4 times, right? Plus you still have 400 that wasn't expended from the amount she's got in the budget, so I figured it was just under $2,000 for the remainder of that, so I think that's very affordable, I say we go.
Travel time too?
Yep, I say we just go forward with it. I think I figured 4-hour sessions, now that I
Yeah,
think of
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Because
she
thinking
travels quite a
the
bit.
traveling, yeah. So I think that's gonna move forward, and I'm really optimistic that going to conservation next June 19th, that's gonna, the final things will be decided, and we'll get a yay vote on that. There is gonna be a meeting of the somebody from the water department, the park and rec, conservation. Who am I missing? Oh, GAA.
Yep,
I missed
GAA.
GAA. And
When's
me. And Barbie was gonna come, but she's gonna be traveling. It's going to be on the 27th
Oh,
in the
good,
evening.
Tuesday.
Yep, and the purpose of the meeting is to try to come to a meeting of the minds on some possible mitigation on the West Street field, just to discuss, with all the players that have a vested interest in that discussion. I think that's gonna be something that the Concom is maybe gonna order, a little something there, so I think we're trying to have that conversation before anything like that happens.
Right.
So it's just good communication, so that's gonna happen on the 27th. But I'm really excited, cause I think that project is this close now, and Lindsay gave us a revised timeline, which has it done November 7th, or, well, I think November.
The 28th was the done, like,
Yeah, she-
signed off.
Yes, but she said like November 7th, things would be done.
Yeah, that's
I would just
awesome.
love to think we might be able to have the Thanksgiving Day there, and I think
Oh,
that might
that
be
would be
wishful
But
thinking.
Fabulous.
But how soon do you have to, notify the other team? Like,
Well, the problem's gonna be, if we can't play on the turf, I don't know where we play. We don't have another football field.
No, but if it's an away, I mean,
It's
Essex will.
it's home this year.
But would they be able to host it?
Oh, they might, but
Yeah.
last year they didn't wanna switch.
Oh,
'Cause-
really?
Yeah, cause we
Oh.
tried it last year, so, but you know what, in enough advance notice, under circumstances, there's always something can be worked out.
Yeah, yeah,
But
that
I
would be
would love-
exciting.
I would love
That'd be like a
love it.
ribbon
That would
cutting.
be
If we
so
could have it,
wonderful on our new turf
Yeah,
field.
That would be awesome.
That'd be
But,
awesome.
lots of things still have to happen, so
Sure.
I don't be overly optimistic, but I'm optimistic.
Yeah, that's good.
We have hope.
We have hope, that's right, hope's the word tonight.
Hope's a good thing.
Okay, so then we do have to
So can
approve
you
this
approve
bill.
that one? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
That's the peer reviewer.
Okay, so, the chair will entertain a motion to approve invoice number 9121390 dated May 8th, 2014 to BSC Group,
BSC Group, yes.
in the amount of $2,329.77 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So we will definitely do this other one next time. I mean, we could do it tonight if we wanna do it, I mean, staff is in support of it, you know what I mean? I just didn't have a formal, they were looking for more information as to how it was gonna come out of the project. I mean, my opinion is we gotta pay it, they did the work.
Right.
And they did build it into the budget.
So do
it's-
they have to wait for us to approve it in order for them
No,
to
I-
get paid?
Yes, yes.
So,
So that's why I'm saying, if we're in agreement that they delivered the services, it's now been determined it's in the budget,
then, yeah.
I mean, I'd be happy.
I would say that
can
we
we
should
approve
probably
it?
do that, because
We can
they.
approve it.
Because
Let's
otherwise they
approve
have
it.
to wait till after June
Yeah.
10th.
Oh, let's not do that.
Yeah, let's not do that to
Yeah,
them.
okay, so is there an invoice? So, there's no,
Well, I don't know, let's see, but that's where I think it is the proposal, that this motion would be
Yeah, so-
appropriate then, to approve the
Proposal.
proposal submitted by them.
Do I
For
have
what,
to put-
for the scope of the work
do I
and the
have to
money.
put the amount in?
No, I
This
don't
is
think
in-
you
But
do,
isn't
but
the
you can.
proposal, what,
This is the proposal, and it does say what the scope of work is and how much they're gonna charge for it, so
That was what they went through.
yeah,
Moving
yeah, that's what
moving
I'm
forward.
saying, and but so,
Are you wondering about the motion?
no, so it was approved at the meeting last night?
Yeah, they know they have to pay it, the question was, they were worried about.
Yeah, so it really wasn't like a motion wasn't made last night to approve it.
Yes,
John got the information today that they were looking for last night from
right,
Lindsay
right.
saying, yes, it is in the budget, it was 7,200 earmarked for it.
Okay.
so it
Okay.
wasn't a formal.
So it's not more money on top of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the chair will entertain a
great.
motion to approve the proposal from Gale Associates dated May seventh, 2014, the redesign and notice of intent amendments.
Yeah,
Morrison.
that's what it's saying.
As presented?
Yeah, that's fine. That's what's in the
Yeah.
reset column.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's good. Okay, and then the final thing that we have to talk about is a very generous donation from Mr. and Mrs. Monjo.
Monjo, yeah.
And what was that for? It's middle school recognition. What are they doing? Are they?
You know, I wish we'd asked
I
Heidi
know,
when she was
that's very
here.
nice of her though to
Well,
do
let's,
that.
I'll get that information from you. We'll drop a little email to
Yeah.
Heidi and we'll make sure it's available.
Yeah, cause it just says,
Yeah,
it just,
yeah.
oh, please accept on behalf of the many students and staff who participated in the CS Dancing with the Teachers.
Yeah, so
Three
probably
courses
what's
for
happening,
many
she just
users.
wants it to be their discretionary use.
That's wonderful,
Yeah.
that's very nice.
They wanna do certificates or
Sure.
pizza party or something.
That's nice. So the chair will
That's very
entertain a motion to accept the $700 donation from Mr. and Mrs. Monjo for the middle school recognition program as presented.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. I think that's it.
That's it?
Okay, good. All right, the meeting is adjourned at 10:07 PM. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Aye. Good
So
night.
I just wanted to share
All
something
right.
with you all. I took my dog for a walk in the